Good morning, Raptor freaks. Lexi Out's here, and it's Sunday morning, and the Raptors are playing their last summer league game today. I believe the game is 6:30 today, Eastern time, and it'll be against the Denver Nuggets summer league team. So I was going to go over the Nuggets roster for their summer league team, and also kind of talk about the news of the day today, including CBL action last night and the unfortunate news about our Toronto Tempo from yesterday. So we'll talk about all that today and other stuff too. And we'll do another taste test today. So stay tuned for that also. Let's get to it. Raptor Freaks, let's go. Summer League going to wrap up today. We had a fantastic open gym episode drop yesterday at noon, showing the Raptors at Summer League in Vegas, including a trip to Oakland Raiders practice facility, where we find out Scotty Barnes has some pretty good receiving skills as far as running down the field. They got met by Hall of Famer Eric Allen, who came and said, "Hi, guys, I'm NFL Hall of Famer," as it says on the wall back there. And I think a lot of the guys were impressed getting custom Raiders jerseys. Yeah, I messaged my friend Steve because he's a huge Raiders fan. He loves the Raptors, so he got the mashup he wanted, the Raptors and the Raiders in that open gym episode. But it's a fun episode. You see some of Coach Evo's styles of coaching and stuff that was happening with the games, and Alan Graves and Chucky Hepburn. Yeah, good stuff. Open gym's always on top of stuff. And Alan has got his own backpack that he has brought with him that has photographs of his family all over it. And he does not want to use the Dora the Explorer backpack. What? You're a rookie, bro. You have to. So you're going to have to carry two backpacks. Just because you brought your personalized family picture backpack don't mean that you get out of getting the backpack. Seriously. This is a Raptors tradition for many, many years. You don't want to break that. So I know you preemptively brought your own backpack, but you have to get a childish one because that is just the way of the Raptors. I'm sorry. I also found out from Open Gym yesterday that the Raptors are bumping Rage Against the Machine when they're doing their workouts at OVO Center in different places, which I fully approve. That is the right kind of motivational music. That's right. They look good behind the scenes working with the vets and the Summer League guys, Nate Biddle, Jaden Bradley, and them along with Scotty and IQ and Colin Murray-Boyles. You can see him doing stuff behind the scenes. You know, Colin's poised to have a big year this year. I have a feeling, because this kid, he wants to build strength on strength, and he already came in strong, and he's just going to get stronger with the NBA weight training program and nutritionist and stuff like that. But we found out that Colin's kind of a dictator. Yeah, in the car. Yeah, he's very, very greedy with the aux cord. Yeah. If Elijah's song is not for his liking, he will switch it. But if there's a song that they don't like that he's playing, well, they don't switch it. That rookie class with Colin, Chucky, and Elijah, well, I guess they've got it all worked out, the hierarchy. Yeah. But yeah, Open Gym, always top notch. Such a great portal to see the behind the scenes of our team and the cool stuff that's going on with them as personalities and stuff. We see them palling around as Scotty and Jacoby and stuff like that. Such a good show. Really well done. And I enjoyed it immensely. And I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, let me get into the Denver Nuggets and today and their team real quick. Their team, once again, is just like the last 3 or 4 teams that we've played at Summer League. I mean, I will say this. The only team we played at Summer League that had NBA talent that was bona fide for sure in the NBA was the Celtics team we played the first night. That team with Hugo Gonzalez and Chris Sanak Jr., who was picked in the first round of this year's draft. They had the most real talent that's going to be in the NBA on that Celtics team that beat us in overtime by 1 point. Then you saw in the Open Gym yesterday, Coach Evo talking about how he was proud of the guys for playing the right way and playing hard. And you know what? He wasn't upset at them losing that Celtics game by 1 in overtime. He's like, of course, we want to win, but this is the kind of loss that you're okay with because they play the right way, and it just came down to like 1 point and 1 basket right at the end. You make the shot, we win, you know? So, that was the only summer league team that was really like a true threat that we played, honestly, and I don't think this one's gonna be any different today. We've had a perfect record since that Celtics game. Unfortunately, we didn't pay attention to point differential, or we would be playing in the championship tonight instead. But we didn't do that. So we'll play the Nuggets instead. And I don't know if this is technically the 5th place game or something like that. Maybe this is the 5th or 7th place game. I'm not totally sure. So here we go. This is the Denver Nuggets that they are playing right now. They've got Efe Abogidi of the G League Ignite. He was an undrafted player from 2023. He's 6'9" power forward. EJ Anosike out of Cal State Fullerton. He's 27. He's a small forward, 6'7", undrafted from 2022. TJ Bamba, shooting guard out of Oregon. He is undrafted from last year. Trevon Brazil, 6'10", power forward out of Arkansas. He's a 2nd-round pick of the Nuggets this season. So he is somebody they have some investment in. Giovanni Imejuru, power forward, 6'10", out of East Carolina. He's undrafted. Rylan Griffin, shooting guard out of Texas A&M. He is undrafted. Coleman Hawkins, power forward out of Kansas State. He is an undrafted player from 2 years ago. Bryce Hopkins, small forward, St. John's. He's a 2nd-round pick of the Nuggets this year. Dijon Jarreau, shooting guard out of Houston. He is a 2021 undrafted pick. So he might know Shed. He probably played with Shed. So, well, Shed's not playing, so there won't be any trash talk there. Mark Mitchell Jr., shooting guard out of Missouri, undrafted this year. Matthew Morrell, shooting guard out of Ole Miss. He is undrafted from last year. I believe he's CBL. I think he is. Aaron Nuke Rama from Tennessee State, shooting guard, undrafted from this year. Osei Osifo, power forwards from Jacksonville University. He is undrafted from a few years ago. Jamias Ramsey. This may be the most well-known name on here. Former Raptor Jamias Ramsey is running on this Nuggets Summer League team. So we are familiar with Ramsey. We know how he plays, number 27, and the way he ran for us like 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, Jamias is on this team. He's the senior experienced guy on this Denver Nuggets Summer League team. He's only 25 still. Texas Tech's Jamias Ramsey. Mark Sears, point guard out of Alabama. He is an undrafted from last year. And KJ Simpson, maybe the next most known player on this Nuggets team. He's a 2nd-round pick of the Nuggets from 2 years ago out of Colorado at point guard. And finally, Eric Stevenson, shooting guard out of West Virginia, undrafted from 2023. So really, other than KJ Simpson and Jamias Ramsey, and maybe a couple of the 2nd-round picks for the Nuggets this year, this is not I think that the Raptors need to kick their ass. Part of the reason why the Raptors have done so well in Summer League is, unlike the other teams in Summer League, we have some team concept that we're running. This has been a real advantage for Raptors squads that compete in G League and Summer League, is that we really do try and build in continuity and connection into the squad that we select. And this year, it's about having guys from 905 on the squad in the middle of the roster. Yeah, sure. We have Alan Graves. We have Nate Biddle. We have Jaden Bradley, new guys that probably, hopefully, will be on the team, including Biddle. I'm sure that Biddle hopefully will be. But, most of the other teams don't have a lot of connections. And, well, we have like 4 guys on our Summer League team that all played together on G League last year. So that familiarity has helped us to cultivate the team concept that Darko Rajakovic employs for the Raptors organization. And Coach Evo keeps it true at Summer League. So that's been a leg up. And part of the reason why we've outperformed the Pacers, the Rockets, the Heat in the 3 games that we won at Summer League so far. But I expect the same kind of thing today when we play the Nuggets. It's a consolation game, but it's still a game nonetheless. for these young men to show off their skills and try and get jobs in the NBA. So the motivation is there. So yeah, we should see Allen Graves play today also, but maybe not because the game is not really important. They don't want to risk anything, and maybe 22 is not going to play today. I don't know. I'd like to see him through. Go ahead and play all 5 of the summer league games, Allen Graves, and get that time as much as possible. It could very well be also today that we're going to see way more of Jalen Celestine and Aziz Banadago and maybe even Malik Thomas. You know, the guys that really didn't get to play a whole lot at Summer League for the Raptors so far, maybe getting a lot more. We might see a lot of Tyson Degenhart today. Yeah, I'd be all about that actually because he's fun to watch. So I predict the Raptors will beat the Nuggets today because we have better continuity and connection already inherent in our team. And we also have 7'5" Jamarian Sharp. So yeah, that'll help. That'll help. So yeah, looking at the Nuggets team, that's who we're facing. Former Raptor Jamias Ramsey highlighting this team. So yeah, I don't know the refs, so I can't tell you the ref report. They're using a lot of it's interesting the refs they've been using. They've been using G League refs for the crew chief, and then they have refs that are from nowhere that I have no idea where the hell they got them from. They're really like entry level refs. They're coming in and trying to taste, and maybe they're tryouts kind of at Summer League, where they bring in new names that have never refed in G League even, and they're trying them out, and they say, "Oh, you did pretty good at Summer League. Come on back, and we'll let you ref at G League this year." There's steps to this, and you know, Summer League ref, G League ref, WNBA ref, NBA ref, NBA playoff ref, NBA Eastern Conference or Western Conference Finals ref, NBA Finals ref. There's levels to this all the way down. And some of these Summer League refs, you can tell they're new when they have 3 digits on their back for their referee number. It's like 224 or something like that, you know? So, yeah, there's my look at the Denver Nuggets Summer League roster for today. Yeah, good stuff. Let's check in on the chat real quick. Nameless is here. Hola, chicos. Hola. Yeah, good to see you, Nameless. Good to see you, my guy. Yeah, we got a big World Cup game today, and it will be Spain and Argentina, 2 Spanish-speaking countries. So I think it's apropos that you said hola, chico. Yeah, and I guess England won the third place game yesterday against France. Yeah, a little bit of World Cup checking in on it. You know who's actually than making me pay attention to the World Cup? Adriana. Adriana got into the World Cup while it's been going on. She's been like wanting to watch the games and getting all into the soccer and watching the levels coming up. So she's going to be watching that championship game today to see who wins between Spain and Argentina in the World Cup final. Nako's here. Good morning, Gerald. Good to see you, my good friend Gerald. That's right. Nate Biddle looks like a Badger from Breaking Bad. You know, that's really good. You know what? That's true. That's true, Joe. I'm gonna give you a dunk for that one because you know what? You're right. He does look like that. Who's Skinny Pete then? Who's Skinny Pete on our team then? Will you make Brandon Angel Skinny Pete and make both of the Oregon guys Jesse's little crew from Breaking Bad? You know, I don't know. Skinny Pete. What about what was his name? Taco or Combo? His name was Combo, right? The kid who got shot by the kid. The weird looking guy on the corner, the little kid on the bike shot, that was Combo, right? I think it was Combo. Yeah, you know, I don't know. We could make all Jesse's crew, but you know what? That is a good comparison. In some ways, Nate Biddle does look like Badger from Breaking Bad. So you're getting a dunk, Gerald. You're getting a dunk, Nako the Nacho. Where is he on here? All right, you're going to Jamias Ramsey, set 27. Now look at that. How timely. You got the number of the guy who we're playing against today. I think he's the only player in Raptors history that's ever worn the number 27, guys. Jamias Ramsey. Yeah, who we're playing today on the Nuggets Summer League team. We'll see if he's there, actually. We'll see if he's there. We Matt McCawkin, 7371. Good morning. Thank you for the sub up and the question. Hey, brother, you think we will make Summer League playoffs? No, we already missed them. Unfortunately, the Summer League, because of the amount of time that you can play and the amount of games, they can't get a straight up tournament. And what happens is, it's so dumb. A lot of the teams will end up 3-1, like what happened. I think like 7 or 8 of the teams ended up 3-1. One team was 4-0, and that was, I believe, the Lakers, which is crazy. And then, they take 3 of the 3-1 teams, and they have a mini 4-team tournament where there's semifinals and then finals. And we had to make a point differential in our last game. And basically, the Raptors needed to beat the Miami Heat on Thursday by 5 more points, and then they would have had a bigger point differential than the Warriors, and we would have gotten the 4th spot in the playoffs at the Summer League, but we missed out on that. In some ways, in my reaction the other day, I was calling out Coach Evo and the Raptors for not realizing this and not playing with more, urgency in the 4th quarter in the last game on Thursday, because that's where they screwed up. They really needed, and I was yelling at the TV because we saw Jaden Bradley and the Raptors just lackadaisically walking the ball up the court to run out the clock. And I'm like, you assholes, you dumbasses, you guys need to beat them by 15, or you are not going to get into the championship of the Summer League. So they missed it because they were unaware that they needed 5 more points. If they had scored 5 more points, beat the Miami Heat by 5 more points, they would have been in the Final Four playing for the championship. Alas, they miss out. And we play for like 5th or 7th or something like that. This happened the year Scotty was a rookie and he played at Summer League. The same exact thing happened. They had a 3-1 record. They were good enough, and Scotty was like, well, we're going to play for the championship. And then he was told the point differential wasn't right, and some other team had a better point differential, and they were top 4, and we didn't make it. And Scotty didn't get to play for the Summer League championship. He was extremely disappointed. So that's what's up, Matt. It sucks. I wish they were more informed and understood what the goal of the Miami Heat game was at that time. But the thing is, to their credit, it was a real time thing that they couldn't gauge at the right second because the games were all going on at the same time. And to understand how much you really needed and how much you didn't, you'd have to be really scoreboard watching with the other Summer League games that were happening at the same time around then. So, yeah, it's a fail. It's a fail in some ways, but also at the same time, I'm happy with their record and the way they're performing. What is Summer League really for? Really just to get a look at, your rookies and possible people for bringing into training camp and seeing if anybody's a quality. So, sometimes it's like, why don't you guys do better to try and win a G League, like G League championships, Showcase Cup against Mo Bamba and Salt Lake City Stars, but it's hard because there's a lot of players leaving G League teams at different times of the season for different reasons to have the continuity. So it sucks. In some ways, I don't know if the Raptors' main priority was to win the Summer League championship, but it was more to see Alan Graves and Jaden Bradley and Nate Biddle and Jamarian Sharp, just to take a look at the players. But yeah, it's frustrating. I'm like, y'all, it's right there. Go get it. But they didn't know. And in some ways, I blame Coach Evo and the coaching staff, but also the players for not being aware of this. Great question. And yeah, I wish I could tell you that they were going to make it, but they're not. They should have made it on Thursday. They missed it. Fiercely saying this. Good morning, fam, and happy Sunday. Let's get the dub today. Yeah, we had interesting news develop yesterday in Tempo World. Yesterday, after I got off the air, I saw on Instagram an apology from Coach Sandy Brondello. And I was wondering what the hell happened and why she was apologizing. So let's go ahead and look at this. This is the Tempo Redditor of the day, Fisheye Lashes. And they're asking the same thing. What happened? What happened? I missed the game, but I just saw this repost on the team account. What happened? And so this is a Tempo official post with the voice of Sandy Brondello, the coach of the Toronto Tempo. Angel, I'm sorry. Last night, in the emotion of the moment after Niara's injury, I used a phrase that I shouldn't have used, and I take full responsibility for that. My frustration was with the officiating, but my words unfairly put the focus on you. I also understand that my words carried an impact beyond what I intended, particularly for Black women in our league. and I'm deeply sorry for that. I've spent my career competing with, coaching, and learning from incredible Black women, and I regret that my words caused hurt to a community I respect so deeply. I have a lot of respect for you as both a player and a person, and I sincerely apologize to you, your teammates, and the Dream organization for my comment. And I was like, whoa, what did she say? This is crazy. What did Sandy say that made her have to do this? Well, apparently, in the middle of the game on Friday night against the Dream, at the end of the game, near when Angel Reese drove into the lane and hit Niara Sabali in the ribs and made her fall over, and they had to get the stretcher and all this stuff. Sandy was politicking the refs for the offensive foul from Angel for running into her midsection. And, Niara had a case because she had her arms up and she really didn't foul her. If anything, the contact was Angel coming into her with her arms. She didn't really hit into her. So Sandy was talking to the refs, and the mic overheard on the broadcast Sandy saying to the refs, what is she, a protected species in this league? Is this why you won't call the foul on her? She's basically saying something about how they feel like she's protected, that they feel like Angel Reese is a protected player. And the wording was unfortunate because in some ways, look, that we got to understand, and I'm not trying to apologize for anything. The league has made their decision, and they're going to suspend her for tomorrow's game against the Aces. She's not going to be able to coach the tempo in the biggest game of the year so far against the champions. The first time we'll ever play them, she will not be facing off with Becky Hammon because she's suspended. And it's likely that her husband, Olaf, will be running the team tomorrow in Coca-Cola when we play the Aces. In Australia, we have to remember that there's a lot of very exotic wildlife species in Australia, and they have a lot of different laws. Thank goodness to Peter Garrett and the Green Party of Australia. Their conservationists have done a lot of hard work in lawmaking to protect species of animals from problems like wildfire burns or killing them for getting whatever they have to sell, like wildlife with poaching. There are a lot of protected species in Australia, and it's a little bit more of a common phrase over there. Now, I'm not trying to apologize for this or anything, but, people like Temi Fagbenle came out and said something about this, of the tempo, a woman of color who has origins from Nigeria, that is from UK and is a global person who's very worldly and has a very worldly perspective. And she has her own comments about this. And she basically said, well, think about it. If she had said that Caitlin Clark is a protected species, would this be the same kind of outrage in some ways? And that's Temi's point of view. I think that either way, Sandy was not being sensitive to the fact that she's in North America, and that in some ways there are really bad problems with cultural racism in the United States right now. So in some ways, they've got to be on high alert in some ways, communities. And I have no problem with this. In some ways, I stand with Angel in the response as far as like, this is inappropriate. And in some ways, it comes off really bad. And if you can avoid these kind of terminologies just because they're accepted in Australia, that's probably smart to not do here. Apparently Sandy has a lot of lingo that she uses in practices with the players, and some of it's very Australian and foreign and not stuff that most coaches in North America use. So there is a bit of this flavor to her. Some people are trying to say, well, you've been coaching in the United States for how long? How could you be so blind and make such a stupid comment? It's probably likely that she uses a lot of vernacular that's Australian that would sound very foreign and weird, and maybe even like have a totally different meaning than what it does in this continent, from her continent, from where she's from. So she did the right thing. And I think most people are very happy with her apology and says that it is a true apology. She's not trying to, she's come forthright with it, and she's just straight up apologizing, not making any kind of concessions. Oh, if you were hurt or anything. No, she's saying it straight up. She's apologizing like a strong woman. And it's a nothing burger in some ways, but it is a burger because now WNBA president Kathy Engelbert has suspended Sandy for a game tomorrow. Well, I mean, look, I think that the Reese camp and the Dream people are all very happy with her apology and the punishment, and we can move on from this. But also understand that, cultural differences around the world are there. And in some ways, it's not right for Sandy to denigrate or say somebody is a species, obviously. But also at the same time, I would say that North Americans need to be a little more open to the idea that people around the world may have different customs, cultures, and taboos and mores and sensibilities than we do. And they are well intentioned and they may say something. And sure, maybe some of it is rooted sometimes in racism somewhere and it should be denounced and put down. But I think that this was not in any kind of way something that was said to be derogatory in the way some people took it. It really is kind of about, like, she could have said, what is she, a protected person? She didn't have to say the word species. She could have just said, what is she, a protected person in this league? Is this what's going on here? Well, I think that was the big problem, is that she used the word species. And that isn't right in connotation to an African American woman. Yeah. So this is a big controversy that's going on around Tempo Land, and this will be part of the lore for the history in the first year of our team. But Tammy standing up for her coach and saying, this it sounds bad, and yeah, this is an important subject, and we should be vigilant about racism for sure. But in some ways, this may be a little bit of overstepping with the punishment, and for like making her be suspended for a game. Yeah. But either way, this all went down yesterday afternoon after the show. I didn't even hear the comment on the TV, so I didn't know this was going on, but other people heard it and they made a big deal out of it. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, whoa, there's some tree falling down out there right now. Crazy. Interesting. All right, let's see what else is going on here with stuff like that. Yeah, let's see. Fiercely saying suspension for one game for Coach Sandy. Yeah, she's getting an early start to the All-Star break. Tomorrow's our last game before at WNBA All-Star this week. And, well, she's not going to be allowed to coach tomorrow. And, well, we'll get to see her husband run the team. I'm pretty sure that's who will be running it. And, they're so – it's not going to be that much of a big difference. In some ways, Sandy's really good at politicking with the refs and managing the game in real time. But Coach Olaf has got a lot of experience running teams himself as the head coach of Germany's women's team and other teams that he's coached in the past. And they very much are in line with each other's philosophies. So it should be very true to her. Yeah, Matt McCoffin said, racist phrase? Holy shit. Okay, I can see the one game. Yeah. I think it's a little touchy. Some of the Raptor freaks were calling it a little over woke. A little bit over, but the thing about it is right now there's a very supercharged racial problem with the WNBA with fans attacking the players and DMs with very racist messages. So in some ways, this is a very public statement of denouncement of racism towards players in the league by doing this. And I don't totally have a problem with it. I don't think Sandy's gonna appeal or fight it or say, oh, this is not right, you don't do this. No, maybe she's like, you know what, this is a just decision, it's fine, I'll take a suspension game if this is the right kind of thing that y'all need to uphold for punishment for anything like this. I mean, it's an ambiguous thing. She didn't have any ill intent, but it sounded wrong. Let's just put it that way. It sounded wrong. Yeah. Matt, great to see you in the chat, and keep filling it up, man. This interactive chat, we can have a dialogue here. Reggie's saying this. He was in town with the alumni celebrating the 92-93 teams. Who are you talking about? Who was in charge celebrating with the 92-93 teams? I don't understand where this comment comes from. Are you talking about Joe Carter? Are you talking about the fact that they retired Joe Carter or they made a statue for him? And I saw a really cool jacket. All right, we're not doing baseball. I didn't pay attention to the ceremony for Joe Carter yesterday at Rogers Center. So I can't really comment on it. All I saw was Vladdy gave him a jacket that had a lot of patches on it, and he was really happy. I was talking to Steve about this the other day, and I'm like, why did it take them so long to come around and celebrate Joe Carter like this? Because man, he did this stuff 30 years ago, and we haven't done nothing with the World Series since Joe Carter. So it's like, why have the Blue Jays waited so long to honor Joe Carter? I don't get this. I don't get this. I think that's what you're talking about, Reggie. In some ways, don't you know about using pronouns? You got to use proper nouns right in the name. Say Joe Carter was in town with the alumni celebrating the 92 and 93 teams. Let's see. Jamaica Bailey is saying this, can see why she got the 1-game suspension as well. Like, why would she say that certain phrase? I feel slightly offended. I mean, for me personally, and I have to recognize as a white male with privilege that in some ways, I have to step out and say, it doesn't matter what I think, first of all. If I don't have any sensibility to it, well, it doesn't matter, Lex, just shut up. But in some ways, that's what I have to say about this. It's like, look, I don't think it's overreach. I think that the suspension is fine, and I think that it's a good message in this climate right now, especially with some of the stuff that's going on in the States with the government and racial profiling of people with ICE and all kinds of other crazy stuff out here, that people do need to be vigilant about being respectful in these kind of areas. And I have no problem with this. It's a detriment for the tempo, obviously, because we're not going to have our coach against Becky Hammon and the Las Vegas Aces the first time we play them tomorrow. That's fine. In some ways, Sandy, she's a very vocal person on the side of the court. She may say all kinds of stuff sometimes, but that one just happened to be picked up. And I don't know if the camera crew had not caught it on the broadcast at that time, whether anything would have happened, because I don't think Reese had heard it herself on the court when that game was in play, and it came to her attention after the game when they saw it, and then that's when the uproar started. And we know that players like Reese and Clark have a huge following and a very, very, very devoted, loyal fan base that are willing to fight for them. We know this. So yeah, Reese Nation came out in full effect. But you know what? I think that they were fair about it. I say all they wanted was proper rescinding, and then also proper apology. And I think that that's what Sandy did very well. And that's what I've heard in most of the comments. Like, the people that were mad at her have been coming into social media spaces and saying, well, that's how you do an apology, at least. So, you got an unfortunate statement that was made, and you got somebody come correct with coming clean on it and also apologizing correctly. So I think in some ways this is a great situation because it puts a spotlight on this subject, how you apologize correctly. And also, let's be a little bit more sensitive with our language. I know myself, because I just speak word like from my head directly. There's no script here. There's no censor. And I walk a tightrope every single day where I could say some crazy ass shit here. And people will be like, whoa, Raptors freak, you're fucked up, bro. Why would you say that? And I do probably say some stuff like that to some people's sensibilities where they're like, yeah, fuck that guy. But I'm fine with that because I'm a very particular flavor of a YouTube channel. And, I'm not trying to get 1 million subs. So I may say things that shoot myself in the foot with subscribers all the time, but I don't care because that's not why I do this channel. I do this channel because I share a passion for Canadian basketball, the Raptors specifically, now the Tempo, the Canadian Elite Basketball League, and Team Canada winning a gold at the Olympics. These are my goals right now. And I want to talk about it on a show every day with people that have those same passions for the Tempo and the Raptors and the growth of basketball in the country of Canada. And, well, I'm off the cuff, and I may say stuff sometimes. But for me, on my channel, my policy has always been, since it's a two-way street, and I read all the comments that are read in here, people can call me out if I'm wrong. And I, once again, I would try and take the leadership example of Coach Sandy Brondello and come with the correct kind of apology and, learn from it and become a better person for it. In some ways, the statement's innocuous if she's on the sideline of court in Australia because it's just part of the vernacular. And some people just use that term. And in some ways, it's not really connotating anybody's race or anything. It's just basically a statement on somebody being protected and it being like a koala or something like that, you know? But it does look bad. The optics of it all look really, really bad. And I can totally understand why a lot of people would be offended by her saying that. So, you know, it's an interesting situation. For me, these kind of things always bring about education, enlightenment, and the ability for people to be better people. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's what it is. And it's not that Sandy's like a bad person or anything. It's just that in some ways, maybe this was a little bit of a blind spot where she needed to kind of be more aware of sensitivities. And now she is. And that's the thing that matters right there, right? That's the thing that matters right there is growth. Is growth right there. Yeah. It's growth like that. Yeah. Fiercely saying this lots of racial tension in the WNBA's current climate. I believe it stems from Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese rivalry. Yeah. And this is like history in the NBA. This is just like in the 80s with Bird and Magic. There was a lot of this kind of stuff in the NBA at that time when the NBA really blew up and got a lot more attention and notoriety. The same kind of stuff was happening. The big difference is there was at social media then. And some of the stuff that happened with Magic and Bird was very ugly. Let's just put it that way. Was very, very ugly. Of course, you know, the racism that Irvin felt compared to what Larry felt is very different. And in fact, I would say probably it was very lopsided. The discrimination and racial hate felt towards black players than white players in the 80s. But now it's online and there can be a little bit more of everything going every which way. And people have voices more in a forum online where anybody can come in and talk. Because, you know, black voices that maybe have been racist to Larry Bird in the 80s probably didn't have much of a platform to be heard, right? So it's an interesting phenomena. As a social scientist, as somebody who studied these kind of topics in grad school, you know, in some ways, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are great people to learn from because they have a whole bunch of stuff that happens around them that it's not necessarily them. It's maybe their followers and people that feel very passionately about them. They're wrong a lot of the times. And, you know, you can say that they're the epicenter of it, but, you know, there's a lot of different things that are contributing to this right now. And some of it is very much the fact that the United States has white supremacy leading it right now. And that a lot more white supremacists and people that are awful and gross are feeling a little bit more emboldened right now because they feel like they can fly their racist flag out there, literally sometimes, like of stars and bars or whatever weird KKK flag, because, you know, there's people that are fucked up that are in charge right now. So I'd say as people that are conscientious and progressive, we need to be vigilant against racism. And that's why everything that happened with our coach, Sandy, I don't have a problem with. I'm not going to be some white guy on the YouTube in the morning saying, no, this is wrong. So Coach Sandy, this isn't right. This is reverse racism. All this bullshit that, you know, some people might be doing today. So it's an interesting subject. And as I say always, this kind of stuff gives you a good opportunity for learning and understanding. That's the thing right there. That's the thing right there. That's right. Jamie K. Bailey's saying this Australian basketball. I don't know, man. Ben Simmons, Giddy, now Sandy. We have to understand, and I got to walk the tightrope here because I don't want to generalize either. You know, the history of Australia. Australia is a very interesting country. You know, in some ways, it was a penal colony for the UK for a long time. They sent a lot of people from the UK there that they didn't want to have there because they were criminals. And, you know, there's a lot of history of racial problems between the settlers, the white settlers that came, and the indigenous people that were already there, the Bushmen, the Aborigines. And, you know, there's some real problems there. Sure, there's a history, and it's not unlike the history here in North America with indigenous people here and some of the things that happen. So, you know, Australia is an interesting place. In some ways, it's dangerous. It's a very dangerous place. And the people there are very different in some ways because of those the sensibilities about having to live there and be who you are. You have to be a little tough. You have to be a little tough because there's a lot of stuff just around the corner that could just kill you, like a spider or a flower or something like that. So you gotta be a little tough. I mean, it's an interesting place, Australia. It's an interesting place. Now, with that list, all right, Ben Simmons, what is he guilty of? Being a lazy ass, being a guy who sits on the sideline with gets paid for nothing. Yeah, he's doing that Dire Straits money for nothing. That's right. Yeah, he gets his checks for free. Yeah, and then Josh Giddey, that whole thing. Come on now, that was just a screwy little dumb misunderstanding. The whole thing about him being with underage girls. I mean, come on. Josh Giddey himself at that time was not that old. And honestly, at a certain point, sometimes the age of a girl can be a little bit kind of cloudy, especially when women mature faster than men. And I would say this also that, if he's not asking everybody's ages up front, and these girls could lie too. I'm just going to say that. And a girl who's like 16 can look like she's 18 or 19, right? So I don't know. The whole thing with Josh Giddey sounded just like a trap and was kind of like bullshit, is what I remember. And man, he's gotten so much grief for it since. So I don't know about Josh Giddey being on a list for notoriously bad Australians or something like that. I'm fine with Ben Simmons being on there though. And Coach Sandy ain't bad. Come on now. Come on now. Coach Cool Cat is in the house. Good morning, Raptor Freak Crew. Good morning to you, Coach Cool Cat. I'm going to have a tasting today. That's right. I'm going to try some new chips I've never tried today. A little bit of a mashup of a YouTube channel. We react to basketball. And, well, we're also going to try a new brand of chips. Why not? Medved Ted's in the house. Thank you for supporting the channel, Medved Ted. So happy to see you this morning. I'm from Australia. We commonly use protected species down under. It is not a racist remark. See, this is what I'm saying, guys. One of the things I don't like about the United States, and I feel like we do so much better up here in Canada, is the whole idea of assimilation. In the States, they want everybody, you got to speak English. You coming here, forget about your Mexican traditions. Forget about your traditions from Africa. Forget about your traditions from China. When you come to here, you're American, and you better just come and get American and eat your apple pie and watch baseball. I don't like that attitude because I feel like part of the reason why Toronto specifically and a lot of Canada is so awesome and crazy awesome is the diversity. And, one of the best things about summer in Toronto is all the different festivals all around the city, whether it's Taste of the Danforth, whether it's Ukrainian festival down in Roncesvalles, whether it's Portuguese festival, they keep their cultures intact here, and they're allowed to all coexist and keep their identities and keep their traditions. But in the U.S., they want you got to get hot dogs and hamburgers and do 4th of July with us. No, what if people want to celebrate their countries' stuff from where they come from? And Canada's so good about respecting that and enjoying that and sharing that. Because you can go to all these festivals around Toronto during the summer and just enjoy different tastes of cultures and the traditions and stuff like that. So I like that aspect about Canada and Toronto specifically, because Toronto is the most multicultural multicultural city in the world. It's surpassed London in recent years. And as far as the percentage of people from all around and where they're from, they can look at those demographics. And Toronto is the most multicultural. It's not New York City. It's not London. It's Toronto. It's Toronto at this point. So I'm all about having, people keep their stuff from their other countries and not have to just assimilate and become this. I feel like that's white supremacy, is assimilation is what that is. But yeah, that's the thing. Medved Ted's from Australia. He has no problem with this. And he can vouch that he's saying that this is a common phrase. And it has nothing to do with race. It just has to do with, and rightfully so, the conservation procedures of that continent and country to protect species from, going extinct. Reggie's here. Good morning, Reggie. Nope, that's not what I'm talking about, Lex. You skipped the comment I was referring to. Well, I don't see it. I'm going to say that right now. I don't see it. So, Reggie, give me the full thing. He was in town with the alumni celebrating the 92-93 teams. Well, the 92-93 teams, that means the Blue Jays, right? Man, whatever comment, I don't see it, bro. There's no comment there. So whatever you're responding to, it didn't show up on mine. I don't see it whether you wrote that. So just elaborate. Why don't you just write it all out again so I can just see what you're talking about? Because it seems like you're talking about a whole different subject that I haven't really talked about yet. So I skipped the comment I was referring to. I don't see any comment that I haven't read here yet. Maybe Nameless retracted the comment and I didn't see it in time, because there is a Nameless retracted comment that I don't see up there. And that may be what you saw. All right, let's see. Jamie's saying this. Can see why she got one game. Oh, wait, I already read that. You got me backtracking. Let's see. Okay, Cool Cat saying, I understand both sides of the issue. From Sandy cultural side, it's not a negative connotation. African American history sensitivity. I was caught in a similar situation, and I said something that I have said since I was a kid. Then I learned that African Americans were offended because of history sensitivity. As a Caribbean Black, I was clueless. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We can have blind spots. I do really feel like, though, because of the history of how African Americans have been treated by the country of the United States, at any point, we can talk about even right up until now, that this is stuff that needs to be vigilant. I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida, not in Canada. And I was very much put in the face of racism all the time in school. I had most of my classmates were either white or black. There was not really a lot of diversity. It was black and white in my town, and there was definitely children of KKK that I went to school with, and very racist people that had very racist roots and mentalities, and they would profess them. And I'd hear the N-word around me, and I would hear really messed up rhetoric and sayings and things that people say. There was one thing down south that they do is when they found out they were getting in trouble for using the N-word, they started using code words instead, the racists, and they would call black people Canadians, which is the craziest thing. So they say, oh, it's these dang Canadians messing everything up and stuff like bullshit like that. So, I mean, the history is awful. It's reprehensible. And there's all kinds of really weird class inequity and all kinds of different wealth inequity and all kinds of stuff that has led to a lot of the outcomes and certain things in society in certain ways. This is all stuff that, I study. And, that's why we should be sensitive to this. Because honestly, if we're progressing as civilization and as humanity, we should be trying to stop the stuff that's absolutely wrong from the past. And that's why this kind of stuff we need to be vigilant about. We do. We need to be vigilant about. Some people say they're being too sensitive. Oh, they're being too sensitive. No, that's the kind of bullshit that people have said to people to try and get away with being racist. Oh, you're being too sensitive. It's like somebody coming up to you and calling you a bad name or insulting you, but then saying, oh, I was just joking. Get over it. Just, you're too sensitive, too thin skinned. No, that's gaslighting, motherfucker. Yeah, you're gaslighting with your bullshit. Now, I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to say, yeah, this is, Cool Cat is in a good spot with who she is to understand everything about this. And she can see it from both sides. As somebody who comes here and maybe has some vernacular that some people are like, whoa, what'd you just say? Yeah, we say this all the time back on the island. It was like, whoa, wait, no. You can't say that here in Canada, though, bro. I'm sorry, man. Medved's Ted saying that we have something like 2,000 protected wildlife species, including koala, kangaroo, numbat, platypus, etc. Many bird species and plants. She probably felt Angel Reese was extremely protected by the refs, but none of her players. Well, and this totally makes sense. And from the specifics of the game, we can think about two plays in particular. The drive by Marina Mabrey down the lane where she came up with the ball like this, and I think it was Hillman or Gray, where it was right next to her, and she brought the ball up, and her arm just hit the face of the player. And she was making a basketball move, and it was not a weird, like, hit her in the face as she's coming by or anything like that. She was coming up with the ball, and her face just happened to get kind of hit by the side of her arm. They called an offensive foul on Marina. Now, to me, in the NBA, I know that there's certain NBA superstars that will initiate contact and hit people out and get room for themselves, and the refs look the other way because it's LeBron. or it's Jason Tatum. And that's the thing. Marina Mabrey, to an extent, right now, is a top caliber all star and a person who's getting hunted by defenses and totally getting covered up. In some ways, refs in the NBA have allowed for superstars to get a little bit of an extra offensive nudge or shove or push off or anything like that. And there's no call. Now, in some ways, if you're looking at that play with Marina, that where she got called an offensive foul and she made the basket, and it was a really momentum killing kind of call. And then you see the call with Niara and Angel, where Niara got hurt and had to leave the game, and she was literally laying on the ground like this, holding her ribs. She may have even broken her ribs from her hitting her like that. And the insult, the injury is that the foul was called on Niara and not an offensive foul on Angel. And that's where Sandy went crazy. And that's where she said, and she's more mad about the refs not protecting her players and protecting the dream players. And that's the word, protecting. She said, what is she, a protected species? She said that. Whoa, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. And in some ways, it's like it's heard through different lenses and different people's ears, you know. And to Medvedev saying this is Australian business as usual, and this is not a racial taunt or anything racial or anything like that. This is actually just vernacular that we use commonly in that continent. And people will say, "Well, she's not in Australia; she's in Canada." And she made the comment. That's what they would say there. Yeah. Jamie K is saying this. It matters where in the world you are. Exactly. That's what I just said right there. When you say these things as well. I know there are certain places where you can't say certain things. So why is this any different? African-American sensitivity. Yeah. I mean, I'm with this. And you know that Tempo crowd, Tempo fans, because look, I was looking through the social media messages on Reddit and different places to get a pulse on the feel of what the fans are saying. And then there were a ton of Toronto Tempo fans that were coming down on Sandy for it. They were not just blindly saying, let's protect our coach. Let's just stand up for our coach no matter what, because she's our coach. No, the Tempo fans are woke. The Tempo fans are progressive. And the Tempo fans are staunch defenders for equality and against racism. And they were coming out of the woodworks, and a lot of them were saying, yeah, Sandy was wrong for this. And they're saying the same thing that Jamie K is saying here. It matters where you said it. You know, this may fly in the NBL. This may fly with the Opals when you're coaching them and you're in practice and stuff like that. But it wouldn't fly here. But what about the counterpoint by Tammy that's saying that if we were playing the Fever and the same exact thing had happened, and it was a white coach saying about a white player, what is she, a protected species, about Caitlin Clark? What would that outcome be like? What would that look like? In some ways, that's an interesting thought exercise. I would like to think that maybe in some ways in an equal world, obviously, people would condemn her for dehumanizing somebody to being a species, no matter what the color of their skin. Right? Right? I don't know. We can't say that for sure. But either way, on that note, it with the history, the hierarchy, the things that have happened racially in the United States, you know, African American women should be protected more and should actually be like looked out for and be more sensitive for because of history and different things, for sure. So I don't know. I mean, Temmie's got an interesting argument about what she's saying as an African woman. But, you know, also at the same time, I would say, well, would it be right for anybody to say somebody's a protected species in North America with not that vernacular in Australia, whether they're white, Asian, black, or Hispanic or whatever, right? Right? You know, it's very interesting. This is, you know, we're getting into some social science here today. That's right. Fiercely saying this, had Gino Ariyama made that comment, I would have been insulted as I saw how he reacted to Don Staley winning. But I honestly doubt Sandy spoke maliciously. I believed her apology. Oh, for sure. For sure. It's the kind of thing where it's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't have seen it that way. I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize that in some ways that came off so bad in that kind of way from that angle. Is probably how she felt. And she's probably embarrassed. And you know, that was a very sincere apology that I just read that she put out yesterday. That is a very sincere apology, and that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Yeah, that would be interesting. The whole Geno thing with Don Staley was was ugly and kind of messed up, but also at the same time, they've come around and fixed it all. And Gino realized he's wrong, and he kind of, came and put the olive branch out to Don Staley, and they're good at this point. So yeah, that was a he of the moment competitor kind of thing that happened there with that whole situation in some ways. Let's see, Jamie K is saying this. Fiercesty's also saying perhaps different choice of words in that instance should have been more appropriate. Well, just in some ways, yeah, it's not going to translate to this continent. Jamie K is saying, I believe her apology to be genuine. Also, the 1 game suspension has a fine retribution. Yeah, I'm okay with it too. I mean, some people would say maybe it's a little overstepping, but once again, there's an issue right now. We've got Chelsea Gray sharing private messages that fans are sending her where they're calling her the N-word and coming at the WNBA fans in private places in very ugly, nasty ways. Some of that has to do with the gambling problems around sports at this point, and some of it just has to do with racist flying their racist flag and coming at people in racist ways. So yeah, I mean it's a tough world right now. In some ways, we really do need to hold strong to our values and the way that we want the world to be going forward, because some people are trying to regress things and take us to old eras that are not right and they're not good places to be. So we do have to do this. We do have to do this for sure. We do have to do this. Okay, this is what Smooth's talking about. Dwayne Ward, the Blue Jays, he passed away at the age of 62. Okay, I did not hear that news. I do remember Dwayne Ward. He was a mid reliever around the time with Wells and Henke and all them. Yeah, that's sad news. I did not see any comment about Dwayne Ward until just now. So I don't know. And once again, we're not doing baseball here. This is very much a basketball channel. And you guys railroaded me into soccer in the last month or so. And I don't want y'all to milbester me. Now, Blue Jays news is important. We can do Blue Jays news to an extent. Things like Joe Carter, big news. But I'm not going to be doing every game of the season, obviously. Like, if it's big news, sure. And I guess Dwayne Ward's passing is big. It's a big thing. Isaac Campbell's brought this up. Okay, good morning, Isaac. Both Canada and Australia have been notoriously bad when it comes to institutionalized racism, especially towards Indigenous people. Yeah, we have to admit that. In the United States as well. Very much so, for sure. There's an ugly history. And reconciliation with the Indigenous people of Canada is something our government should stop wasting so much money on paying lawyers to fight against, and just go ahead and do the money the right way for the people that have been wronged. There's so much dumb money in the government of Canada that's wasted on litigation and legal fees to fight against doing what's right, which I don't get. I don't get it at all. And in some ways, you guys spend all that money already. Why don't you fucking just pay them what we should pay them for, for reconciling some of the issues and the horrors of the past? It's like, I don't get that. The government shouldn't be paying lawyers to fight against justice, is what I'm saying here. Mr. Greg, good morning, everyone. Good morning to you, Mr. Greg. Good to see you, and thank you. We are so appreciative of having your presence in the chat this morning once again. That's right. Jamie K is saying, these are very sensitive times. I work at DC College, and they told me to take down a Christmas tree due to religious beliefs, complaints from my boss. I really hope Sandy learns from this. Time heals all. I'm sure she did. In some ways, her little folksy sayings from Australia will be more guarded. Maybe she'll put them through an all-around lens and say, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't be saying this one anymore either, and stuff like that. I mean, this is common in culture, in society. There's a lot of crazy sayings that were said in American culture for many, many years that everybody's kind of like, you know what, that kind of saying is really kind of racist. You shouldn't be saying that. Do you know the origins of that saying? Do you know what that saying even means? Yeah, go look it up on the internet. You would be shocked. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm not really going to say that again because I didn't realize the history of it. There's a lot of stuff. I like watching old media on YouTube. YouTube is awesome for having like old TV shows. I go way back. In fact, I'll watch movies from the 1920s silent movies, black and white movies, movies of Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. I'll go back and watch, early 60s movies. I'll go watch sitcoms from the 70s and 80s. And I see a lot of the imprinting and the upholding of some of the racism in society, the conditioning of how they want American values and family to be like, all over it. The coding is so easy to see in hindsight, watching it now. But when you're a kid and you're watching it all, you don't understand just how much there's programming and all that. And there's racist programming in a lot of old entertainment movies and TV from back in the day. Some of my favorite things to watch sometimes are like old movies from the 30s that were black productions, African American movies that were all written by African Americans and acted by African Americans. And you wouldn't even know these movies exist because nobody puts them on blast or talks about them hardly at all. But there were early black filmmakers from like the 30s that have very interesting movies because they're showing it from their side of life and their perspective. And, they're showing also kind of stuff that you wouldn't even think around them. Like, wow, this is a rich black guy who's got a very nice home and he's got a very good job and this and this. But, there's a lot of kind of like, people trying to tell the stories of who people were at different times. And you don't see the diversity or the variety, or, everybody wants to just lump people into categories. So yeah, it's interesting to go back and watch old media and watch it for like the coding and how they conditioned us when we were kids. Like even just watching, like I'll watch an old episode of Different Strokes with Gary Coleman and Conrad Bain and that show. And some of this stuff, Different Strokes was a groundbreaking show and it was very interesting in the premise of it. But there's a lot of really weird coding in it and shit because that show was probably made by white men. And they're probably trying to establish certain ideals and things by using a cute little kid like Gary Coleman, So, yeah, I would say anybody go back and watch stuff, watch commercials, watch movies, watch TV shows, and you will see very openly like how they tried to shape minds. Very openly. You could see it. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, the whole thing about Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and happy holidays and that statement. I'm, for one, myself, feel like Christmas is a fun holiday, but also at the same time, I can understand where if you're working in a public place or you're at a place of work, why you wouldn't want to dote on just one of those holidays, because in some ways it's insensitive to other people of other faiths or other things. And the separation of church and state is an important thing in the United States, even though the government right now is not treating it like that, with trying to institute religious studies in classrooms in Texas and Florida, and also trying to put like the 10 commandments on the wall in schools and stuff like that. Yeah, that's not really what the United States was founded on, mixing the government with religion, So yeah, Ward was the closer in 93. He was the closer at one point. Yeah. Yeah, I remember back in the day, the order kind of used to be the starter, and then there would be like Wells and then Ward and then Henke. He was like the setup man. Ward was a setup man for most of his career with the Blue Jays, from what I remember. And some guys like Henke or BJ Ryan later on, those guys were more closers, those kind of guys. But yeah, Ward did play. He was their closer for 1 year. You're right. I do remember that too. Jamie K saying, do you think the Tempo have a playoff chance? Oh my gosh. I mean, there is a chance, sure, but I don't think it's a good chance. I don't think it's a good chance. They're now sitting 5 games under 500. And, the thing that we need so bad is Rice and Sykes. We just need them back. And, well, they're not going to be playing tomorrow. They will be back after the All-Star, but they could be back shortly after the All-Star. That's the latest news we're hearing, is that we could get them back the first game back after, and that's Minnesota, I believe. But yeah, our schedule is going into one of the hardest parts of the year where we're going to play, like including this dream game we just played on Friday. We're playing like top 5 teams like in all the games for like the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's Lynx and Aces and Dream. And we're still hurt. And we don't have we have a team that's kind of been learning together, and they're not gelling, and they're not gelled as much as other teams in WNBA are, as far as connection and knowing each other inherently. The Tempo are still figuring out each other, and that's hurt them for turnovers and being able to trust each other and really kind of get together in the fourth quarter and try to close games out strong together as a team to win. This has been a big Achilles heel for them recently. We do better with Sykes around because she's a good 1-2 punch with Mabry. And then Kiki is such a good player all around as far as a leader and somebody who can kind of help us set up things to win. And it's so crazy because she's a rookie. But if she's in the game, we have a better chance of controlling the fourth correctly and winning the game. But we don't have that right now. In fact, our stats over the last 5 games have been really dismal in the fourth quarter. We've had a really hard time scoring points in the fourth. The other teams are clamping down on us, and we're not meeting the challenge in running with them and trying to keep score with them at the end. We're lucky we beat the Liberty last Sunday in Montreal because we had a huge lead and they ate into it, and we were able to hold them off just enough just to hold that huge lead up until the end and win by 1. But they were coming after us to come and take the game, and we held on and was lucky. A big part of it will be whether Rice and Sykes can return very soon after the All-Star break so that we can get them integrated back in and feel full strength again, and then we'll see. But also the other thing is we just played a 9-game homestand, which is going to end tomorrow in the last game of 9. We just played a whole bunch of our home games. And for the rest of the season, the amount of home games we have playing here in Canada is not very many. And 2 of them are going to be over in Vancouver. We're going to be playing over in Vancouver home games. And we're not going to be playing in Toronto very much for the rest of the season because we played almost all our home games here just recently. So there's a lot of things against them. Well, I've also heard that the Tempo have the second toughest schedule for the rest of the year. And being hurt and being an expansion team, that's not good. So we were front loaded with a lot of the easy games, and our record looked better for it at the beginning of the year. So I would love to be in the playoffs, but I don't think it's likely. There's a lot we have to overcome. And well, if we're really amazing with Kiki Rice back, maybe it could happen. Maybe, but man, Mystics look so strong, and I think they deserve that last playoff spot. So I'm kind of rooting for Sidney Johnson and his team to hold it because they deserve it. They're a really good team, and they've beaten us 3 times this year. And I have no problem with the Washington Mystics being in the playoffs over us because they're the better team. Let's just be honest. They are. Irfin has been a fantastic menace against us when we played them. She's been absolutely a menace. Yeah. Let's see. Jamie K. Bailey saying, in your own opinion, what do you think what will happen with this Claw thing? Personally, I think the trade will be voided, and we will get him and keep Bi and Grady. That's a crazy scenario that I hadn't heard yet, where we keep Grady and Brandon, and we get Claw still because his contract's voided, and we can pay him too. Once again, it's too many people. You don't need Brandon and Kawhi. They're the same role on the team, and in some ways they kind of step on each other's toes. There's more likely to be confusion and problems by having both of them than getting any kind of benefits from having both of them. There's more likely there'll be negative things happening because of it, because of confusion and egos and people wanting to be the man. So if Kawhi's on our team, Brandon's gone. Brandon is gone. We've talked about this quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, obviously, when this scandal and everything, the trade getting paused has happened. So we covered it here. I would say this. I think that the most likely scenario, once again, and I think that Adam Silver's putting on a dog and pony show. He's not really investigating anything. In some ways, he's just making a big deal out of nothing. He'll come around with something. He needs to punish Steve Ballmer and the Clippers. That's the most important thing. Whether he punishes Kawhi or not, that's optional. Because I would say this, there is a plausible way where Kawhi can be free from any wrongdoing in this. And it's basically, part of it is the Groot AI art. Part of it is that Kawhi himself personally, because he's so aloof and detached, he can probably make a case that he had no idea any of this was happening, and there's no paper trail to actually tie him to it. So there's a way where they can say, well, Kawhi's not in trouble because he didn't know this was going on. His uncle was doing it, and the Clippers knew that was going on. So it's like the dentists get in trouble. They're the fall guys. Robertson for Kawhi and Wong for the Clippers organization. And then the Mitch, the agent, gets in trouble too, and he's barred from ever dealing in the NBA ever again. And but the best thing to do is find the hell out of Steve Ballmer, take draft picks away from the Clippers for at least 5 years, if not longer. Seriously, you really want to. That may be the best way to punish them because money's nothing to Steve Ballmer. But if you take the Clippers draft picks, like one of their picks every single year for like 5 or 6 years, that will hurt them and that will make them feel like, okay, we got punished for this. Now, with Kawhi, if he did take any money that's illegal and they can prove it, they should make him pay it back and then maybe some more on top of it as a fine. But the likelihood of him getting his contract voided is not likely. As Josh Lowenberg has pointed out on TSN, that the contract that Kawhi's on right now isn't actually the contract that has to do with aspiration because it's so long ago. The aspiration contract's from extension before this. So technically, the contract that Kawhi's on right now is not having anything to do with the wrongdoing. So the logic of suspending or voiding this contract is not actually there for that. So I don't know. I mean, even if they suspended Kawhi for some games, which they didn't do to Joe Smith and other any situations from before, I think it doesn't hurt the Raptors because he's going to miss a certain amount of games anyway. And if he misses 20 games of the season because of a suspension, Bobby's like, okay, we don't care. We'll still do the trade and we'll just build this into his load management. You know, that he'll get to have that Brandon runway to come into the team and see it and observe it and practice with it behind the scenes. And then he'll finally make a season debut, 20 games in the season or something. There you go. There you go. Jamie K saying, do you think Adam Silver is doing a good job handling all these scandals? No. And the problem is that, like, and this is just true to society in general, is there's a lot of lies in capitalism. There's a lot of lies in this power structure and the systems we build where they're built on subjugating people, a lot of people in big masses in little ways, in little ways from far away. And well, there's a lot of stuff with that is just not going to work at a certain point. And well, this is symbolic of it. There's people that think they can get away with anything because of money. And Steve Ballmer is one of those people. And well, we got to understand Adam Silver, as the commissioner of the NBA, works for the owners. He works for Steve Ballmer. So in some ways, he's kind of like a person that's just a face and a person in a position, but he's not really an authority. He's really a pawn. In some ways, he's kind of just an actor. And, he's got to put on a whole show to make it look like, because the most important thing with the NBA is to show that it's fair, right? In some ways, we know the NBA is not fair. The refereeing is not fair. There's storylines written. Terrence Ross, formerly of the Raptors, two-time dunk champion, was on Twitch one day with me, and he laid it all out and said, Raptors Freak, listen, the NBA isn't totally fair because we write storylines and we want certain teams to play each other. He blew the lid off of it. He said it exactly how it works and saying, like, they want the matchups. They want to encourage things with LeBron. They want to encourage things with the Lakers and the Knicks because they make money off of them. And it's a money-making enterprise. So a lot of the decisions and some of the rulings and some of the things that happened are with that in mind. And well, when you start doing that kind of stuff, it becomes more like WWE. It becomes more like sports entertainment. And the gambling aspect of things with prop betting has made this even worse and even more convoluted to whether, the sanctity of the game and the integrity of it is questioned. And, it's bad enough where, he may want to kind of invisible hand move things in certain ways, like Luka to the Lakers, or, I want to guide this team to be better so that they have a possible chance for a championship like the Knicks. That's bad enough. But we've got to understand the more that the NBA looks like WWE, like it's storyline written, the worse it is for the league. And I think he's done a horrible job of keeping the integrity of the game on the up and up so that it doesn't look like it's actually script written in some ways. Because it is script written. And Terrence said it. He said, "Look, they're going to do the things that'll make the most money, and they'll make decisions based on things in that way." So I think that Adam Silver has failed because he allowed gambling into the sport, first of all. And I think that also he's failed because he is not upholding the illusion that the NBA is fair. He's not upholding it because the league is not looking fair anymore. And it's looking more and more like WWE and how they write storylines and stuff like that. Jamie K saying, I feel like they are cracking down harder on the Gary Trent Jr. situation than on more on the Claw. Yeah, I don't know. I think that that whole situation's silly and it's such a non-story, but it's true. It could be actually part of distraction to just kind of take away in certain ways. I don't know. They really don't want to put a whole lot on the Kawhi situation, but they have to because Pablo Torre found out. That's what it is right there. Yeah, Reggie's saying Kawhi gets suspended for 25 games. Raptors signed DeMar as a replacement, in my opinion. Yeah, you guys are so out of touch with what's actually possible. Michael Grange posted it yesterday that the Raptors have $2.5 million left to spend on their salary cap for this year. And man, that's, they don't even have enough for the veteran minimum. So, like, they really don't have a lot of wiggle room and chances to do stuff. If they make a trade, it changes things. But to me, I'm not advocating for any trade. I'll be very happy with the 15 guys they have on contract right now, along with 3 guys from this training camp in this summer league. And I want them to be Biddle and Sharp because they're both centers, and that'll add a nice young depth to our centers. And it could be Lundy, or if AJ Lawson circles back and he is the third person, that's great too. But there's not a lot of money there. This is not realistic. And everybody reading into DeMar's post of the movie Life with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence and Kyle and him joking around about this. Russell Westbrook called me and he said, "What are you doing, bro?" It sounds like Russell might want to play with DeMar wherever he goes. And he's trying to figure out where he's going to go because Russell Westbrook might want to team up with him. No, it's not likely DeMar's going to be here. I mean, we're hearing crazy shit like LeBron's likely to go to Toronto. This is all speculative trade crap, and this is the same stuff we deal with every offseason. And I've already explained many times how I feel about DeMar DeRozan coming back to Toronto right now. I'm not for it because it doesn't make any fucking sense from a basketball standpoint. It really doesn't. We're in a new era. In some ways, we have a player type that we've built into this team. And in some ways, DeMar's not in that player type. And also, once again, I'll be selfish for DeRozan. And I'll say the thing that I want DeRozan to do right now is to go to a team where he can score a lot. And I don't care if they're a good team or not. I know he wants to be back in the playoffs and play meaningful basketball. But I don't care. Go play for a shitty team and go get like 2,000 points this year and rocket up the all-time career scoring list for the NBA. Because right now you're in the top 20, and you could be closer to the top 10 in 2 years if you really play right and you get a lot of volume and get a lot of shots. I don't want DeMar to take a lot of shots on the Raptors. I don't want DeMar to come here and play as a halftime part-time player either, because that is shorting himself for his full potential with his ability and his longevity in his career to get higher in the all-time scoring list. So I have selfish reasons for me and the Raptors, and I have selfish reasons for DeMar himself for why we don't want him in Toronto. There's Scotty and Kawhi, RJ, Emmanuel. These guys are going to be scoring points for us this year, and DeMar's not going to have a slice of the pie here. And he could come to this team and he could score 400 points the whole season, and that won't be but a drop in the bucket for him to pass Akeem Olajuwon, Dr. J. There's all these crazy names. He's just below on the list. So Raptors fans, just shut up about him coming back here because he's not going to get points and move up the list. And in some ways, it's really impressive to me that a Raptors draft pick, a Raptors architect of the We the North era with Kyle Lowry and Dwayne Casey and Masai Ujiri ends up being very close to the top 10 all-time scorers in career total scoring. Like LeBron's at the top. He's the king. Kareem, Karl Malone. You want to see DeMar on that list with those guys for all-time score. Because look, it's not in the cards for him probably to win a championship. If he tries to ring chase in his last couple of years of his career, he may sabotage himself for the other thing. So, dude, get on point with what is most in your grasp right now. If he scores 1,500 points this year, 1,500, which is normal output for him in a season, he will jump up to like 14th in the league. If he does it for 2 years in a row, he has a chance to be in the top 10. So I'm very adamant about this. And just because we feel good about it, oh, it'd be so nice to have DeMar here. Don't worry. DeMar's going to be back here for one day, like Kyle. He's going to do exactly what Kyle did 2 weeks ago. He's going to come back, sign a one-day contract, and retire as a Raptor. But he doesn't need to play for us again on the court. That's what I'm telling y'all. We can get this happy feeling. We're going to retire number 10 with number 7. We're going to get DeMar back in the Raptors for one day on a contract, just like Kyle just did. He doesn't have to play for us, though. We've changed. We've evolved as a team since when he was on our team. In fact, we outgrew him to get the Kawhi, to get the championship. And we know that's true. Dwayne Casey and some people can say, well, they would have won the championship with DeMar or Kawhi. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, that 4-bounce shot against Philadelphia. So I know it's for healing. I know it's healing for him. As Dwayne Casey said, he's like my son. And it would be such a heartwarming story to see DeMar DeRozan back on the Raptors like this in a healing way. I get all that. I love that idea in some ways. But also, I'm thinking about what's the next step to get us closer to Larry O'Brien, because to me, that's the assignment for the Raptors. It's not, we're a nostalgia team where we're just going to do things for Vince Carter, Kyle Lowry, and DeMar DeRozan, and that's what we care about. That's what our team's all about. No, our team's about trying to win the second Larry O'Brien championship for the Toronto Raptors in this city and get another parade. And the assignment with Kawhi on the team this year is very much in reach if we stay healthy and we do things right this year. So, I mean, I love DeMar. And once again, you guys bring up DeMar all the time, and some ways it's pissing me off right now because I don't want to say these things about him. He does not fit our team. He does not fit what we're trying to do, and it would stick out like a sore thumb. And people say, no, Lex, he'll come off the bench, and he'll be a really good off-the-bench scorer. Bullshit. Does he fit with our defensive acumen around on our team? All of our players on our team right now are crazy good defenders. DeMar, in some ways, we know that's one of his weaknesses. And in some ways, if we're going to do what Darko has in mind for this year, we can't have DeMar on this team. Even RJ, who has been given so much crap about his defense, improved his defense immensely last year and fits in well with our system. And I'm not saying that DeMar's not a bad defender. He's a bad defender. He's a horrible defender. It's just that he's not the caliber of defender that we have most on this team. And that's what I say right there. Yeah, the only way DeMar gets on this team, and I've said this, is if Kawhi cannot play this whole entire year because he's suspended for the whole season. And then the Raptors could do a pivot and say, all right, we don't have Kawhi to be our main closer scorer. Let's get DeMar, and he can come and do a 1 year with us while we wait for Kawhi next year. That's the only way I see this happening. And even then, I would question whether it's actually going to help our team for this year or not, is what I would say. Yeah, that's what I would say right there. Yeah, let's see. Isaac's saying this. If we have Kawhi on the floor, then the only player we need is Scotty, Wayne, Freewheel, and Barnes. Free Scotty. Let him cook and transition off ball as a rim runner. IQ push and tempo with Kawhi mid-post. I can't wait to see this stuff is coming up. And Scotty's excited. He's excited. He posted that thing about, I can't wait for training camp. Yeah, these guys, they should be getting together. In some ways, I'll bet you Scotty's already kind of hung out with Kawhi and done a little bit of messing around at Vegas or something like that as far as talking or maybe even shooting around in the ballroom. I don't know. Was Kawhi allowed to go into the Raptors practice ballroom and work with coaches at all yet? I mean, he's been seen around our team in a couple of different places already. So we can tell he's committed. That's right. Yeah, I can't wait to see what it looks like right there. Yeah. Jamie K saying, does Kawhi signing bonus go against the cap? Well, there's a lot of talk about this. This is one area where Kawhi could be very friendly to the team and taking rescinding that bonus and it not and helping the team a lot. But we know Kawhi and the way he is, he's probably not likely to do that completely. Rescind the signing bonus is what it is. I have no idea exactly. Blake Murphy has talked a bit about how this would interact with the cap and what would be allowed with flexibility if he does waive that signing bonus. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. In some ways, I don't like to speculate. My channel is really more about reacting. And when things happen, I talk about it after the fact. So, right now with the way the trades held up, there's a lot of speculating right now. And I want to wait till it all gets sorted out and the outcome comes out, and then I'll react to it. Because we can talk about it till we're blue in the face. But if it's not the reality of what eventually happens, I feel like we've been wasting our time, is what I would say. Yeah. Isaac's saying this Scotty's efficiency when scoring under the net in transition is off the charts. Yeah. This is why, Darko's vision for Scotty is like Antetokounmpo. He wants him to be more like Giannis. There's nothing scarier than a Giannis or a Scotty in the open court, bringing the ball down the court downhill towards the defense and them on their heels. There's nothing scarier than that. And that is going to be definitely something that we're going to see. We saw a lot of it last year, and we're going to see more of it again this year. Is Scotty with the ball coming up the court fast, coming downhill, and trying to drive down the lane and maybe dunk it on their heads or be passing it out to somebody as he draws all the defensive attention to the middle. He can kick it out to Allen Graves, and Allen Graves is a sure shot, and he'll hit that three. So there's going to be stuff like that, So we're saying this. It's coming from Mark Stein, though. He also reported the Brandon Ingram stuff. I don't trust Mark Stein anymore. I really don't. He's been compromised. There was some story that he put out in the last 2 years, which was absolute shit. And I'm like, all right, I used to trust Mark Stein, but I don't anymore. I don't. I really, really don't. And, we also got to think about what they're saying and how they're saying it. Some of it is just sensationalization or the ability to get clicks. They know that Raptors Nation is a very big nation that has a lot of people, and we're very active on social media. So some of these guys are manipulating things just to like make a story or to get clicks. And I believe that in some ways Mark Stein is compromised, unfortunately. It was a lot better before there was the internet. In some ways, when he was just a reporter or somebody who wrote articles, now with tweeting and so much other bullshit, at a certain point, I decided I'm not following him or believing him anymore. And that was like 2 years ago. So I don't put credibility with his name anymore, just so you know. Personally, I don't. I don't put credibility with Jake Fisher either, though, because this is what these guys do. They may hear rumors and stuff, and they may be insiders, but I don't care. Rumors and shit like that, it doesn't mean anything if it doesn't happen. So these guys can talk about this shit till they're blue in the face. Once again, I'll say it. If it happens, I'll react to it because there's so many different rumors. Like Nick Nurse said a couple years ago, there's like 90% of this shit they talk about never happens. So why should I listen to them if their percentage is so low that only like 5 or 10% of what they say actually happens? Because these dudes are making this shit up half the time. Or if they are hearing things and they're privy to something, but it doesn't happen, then why do we even need to know about it? That's what I would say too, because I feel like that's destructive. As much as a trade with Kawhi and Brandon Ingram and Gray Dick getting rescinded and these guys having to come back, I don't need to know about every single trade try that Bobby Webster tried to make with our players that didn't happen, because it didn't fucking happen. And the same thing could be said about Kyle Lowry and how many times the Raptors try to trade him over the years. Well, he stayed on our team for different reasons. A failed physical, James Dolan scared of us fleecing him again. And well, he stayed on our team. We won championship. So things are meant to be the way they're supposed to be. And until they happen, I don't speculate. I react after the fact. And DeMar DeRozan is in limbo. He's just out there. And until he finds his spot where he settles, then I'll react to it. If it's on the Raptors, we'll talk about it for sure. Oh, yeah. But I don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't see it from a cap financial perspective where it's possible for the Raptors. I don't see it completely for a fit basketball-wise. And I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I feel like this is nostalgia. This is warm hearts, feeling warm things for the past is what this is. Yeah. Yeah, DeMar's already got a $10 million release account amount from the Kings. Well, look, if there's some sort of way where DeMar comes to the Raptors on pennies, I still don't think it's a good move because of the aspect for him that I've said. There's no way he gets a slice of the pie that's meaningful enough for him to continue his climb in the career all-time scoring list. There's no way because I'm not sacrificing Barrett's game for him. In fact, I would make all right, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna Winders this shit right now. I feel like this whole DeMar DeRozan to Toronto thing is a fucking thing made by the US up to fuck with the relationship between DeMar and Toronto fans, between Raptors and DeMar himself. Because look, they see this as a horrible idea, honestly. If you really think about this, Reggie, this is a horrible idea. DeMar coming back to Toronto. This is a horrible idea. But people like how Raptors fans are nostalgic. They're preying on us. They're gaslighting us. They say, let's make a big deal about DeMar DeRozan returning to Toronto. And all the fans that don't say they want it, ooh, they're not good fans. Or, oh, no, you're going against DeMar. No, I'm a realistic fan that's thinking about this from basketball perspective, from what we're building with Bobby and Scotty and Darko. And DeMar doesn't make sense. In some ways, could it be, Reggie, that you're being used as a pawn between people that are giving bad information that's not good for us? And at the same time, they're also possibly causing a toxic rift between one of our most celebrated players in the history of our franchise, and that you're being used as somebody in the middle of it to push for something that's not good for our team. And that no matter what the outcome comes, whether it's he comes to our team or he doesn't, he comes to our team, it's not good for our team. He doesn't come to our team. Oh no, all the Raptors fans that wanted it to happen crash out and say that we're not honoring or doing him right. It's a no-win scenario. So I would say let it go. Just stop pushing it and just stop doing it. In some ways, I feel like y'all are being pawns of a much darker idea of what this whole thing is. And it's in some ways to try and hurt the rebuilt relationship between DeMar DeRozan and the Toronto Raptors fan base and the Toronto Raptors as a team. Because we don't want to make a big deal out of, oh, they didn't want you again, DeMar, because that's what's going to happen, right? Y'all make such a big deal about DeMar coming here, and DeMar doesn't come back to the team, and then people are saying, oh, they didn't want you again. I hate that energy. It's like getting dissed twice. So that's why I say just leave this alone. Just shut up about DeMar DeRozan. If it happens, okay, great. We'll talk about it. But overly talking about it in some ways is toxic. And in some ways has the ability to possibly be damaging. Is this pissing off Drake? Sure. I love it. I love that part about it. If, maybe that would be worth him coming back just to piss off Aubrey. It's like, oh, yeah, DeMar's back on the team, Drake. How do you feel? Well, me and Adonis are not coming to the games this year. Okay. Yeah. Well, whatever. Fuck you, Drake. We don't want you at the dumbass games with your ice seat and all your bullshit anyway. That's what I say to that. So, yeah, just leave it alone, Reggie. Realize you might be being used as a pawn on the down low for people that don't want good things for us. Let's just put it that way. Jamie K is saying, for some crazy reason, I see us winning the NBA Cup. Ha ha ha. Like winning the NBA Cup in the middle of the season? That'd be fun. It depends on whether Kawhi is suspended or not, because that'll be at the beginning of the season. And if he's suspended, well, we may not have as good a chance to play in the NBA Cup for the final. We'll have to see. Reggie's saying, not saying that it will happen with the Raptors, but he does want to be on a chip team. That's what's being reported. Yeah, he said this. I mean, you're recycling stuff. In some ways, we're repeating too much, Smooth Brown Man. Stop doing this. Let's stay on task. The day stuff. Today is Summer League. Denver Nuggets, Allen Graves, Tempo, Sandy Brondello, suspended. CBL, we can talk about that. In fact, I'm going to talk about that in a second. But yeah, look, DeMar said publicly, and I've talked about this a month ago. We've already covered this, that he would like to play on a contender. He'd like to play a meaningful basketball at the end of the year and not sit out when the playoffs come around. That's what he said. He didn't necessarily say he wants a ring or to go get a chip. He just wants to play in the playoffs again. He just wants the ability to get back in the playoffs because he hadn't been there for Sacramento, Chicago, and San Antonio for a while. That's it right there. All right, let me go ahead and check in with the CBL, what happened last night, because something crazy happened last night. And I feel kind of bad. Adrienne and I were going to go to the Pan Am Center last night and watch the Scarborough Shooting Stars play the Ottawa Blackjacks. But when we went on Ticketmaster to look for tickets, they were almost all sold out. In fact, they had some of the worst seats available. And I was like, man, this isn't worth that money and coming down there and sitting in the arena for that. So we decided to change our plans from to not go to the Scarborough game and just go out to dinner and have a date. And well, while we were gone and didn't go to the game, they lost their first home game of the year. They had not lost in Pan Am Center this whole entire year until last night to the Blackjacks and Javonte Smart, who absolutely torched them. There were a couple problems with what happened in this game. One of them was Miles Powell was out for some reason. They also just brought back Team Canada's Charles Bediako to start at center, and he had been away from the team for a couple weeks because he was playing with SGA and Dylan Brooks in those games against Jamaica and Puerto Rico. He also went to Summer League, and he was playing for the Bulls on their Summer League team in Vegas in the last week. So Charles showed up, and the team's changed a bit. Terquavion Smith returned to the team this week, and he was their main guy last night. The guy who was shooting all the shots, but he was horrible. He was high volume, a horrible quality. He was 5 for 20 from the field. He shot a lot of shots and missed a lot, and he had a lot of turnovers too. He had 6 turnovers. And Frank Mitchell off the bench was turning the ball over too like crazy. He had 5 turnovers. And well, Miles Powell wasn't there. Ottawa took control of the game early with Javonte Smart almost right away, and they led pretty much wire to wire the whole game and beat the Scarborough Shooting Stars in Pan Am Center 102-89. It was not a normal kind of Scarborough game. They were slow to get after things. They seemed like a step slow, and the Blackjacks were all over them and outran them on the court. It was really actually impressive. I watched the highlights later, and the Scarborough Shooting Stars didn't look like their normal selves. So, yeah, missing Miles Powell, integrating Canadian Charles Bediako back in the lineup after he'd been away for a while, and Terquavion Smith shat the bed with a high usage, horrible quality performance where he shot a lot, missed a lot, and turned the ball over a lot and screwed over the team in some ways as the main guy. Miles Powell is better for that. He's not doing that kind of stuff, but Terquavion did. So alas, Scarborough loses their first home game of the season, and they go to 15-5. They're still the number 1 seed in the CBL playoffs no matter what. But Ottawa gets a nice little feather in their cap from getting the win. I know Isaac Campbell is very happy with that outcome, and so is Fiercey. They're Blackjack fans beating the Scarborough Shooting Stars. And, well, Adriana and I feel a little guilty that we didn't go to the game to help root them on because she is Lady Luck, and we often win whatever game she goes to. But, I don't know what y'all were doing, Scarborough. Why were y'all having the tickets so screwed up? It did look like there were empty seats there more than the ones that were on Ticketmaster. Y'all lost a sale because of a dumb thing like, well, you won't sell 2 tickets when 3 are available because there would be an extra seat there. Do y'all ever find that when you're buying from Ticketmaster? That they'll tell you, you can't buy these tickets because there's 3 tickets here and you only want 2. And that will leave 1 single ticket by itself. So we won't sell you the 2 tickets. That seems dumb. You should just be wanting to sell the tickets. But whoever comes to want to buy them. Either way, you turned us off from buying the tickets, CBL, yesterday in some ways. And maybe Scarborough lost partly because of that. Because I would be loud at the game. And the other matchup, Niagara lost. And their winning streak is over. Edmonton, 102-91 in the victory in St. Catharines, which is interesting. So big win for Edmonton Stingers, beating the 2-time champ Niagara River Lions. Today, there is a couple games real quick. There is Montreal at Winnipeg is the one of the games today. That game will be at 6 p.m. Eastern. You can watch it on YouTube or CBL Plus, CBC Gem. Also later tonight, a West Coast matchup, Saskatoon Mamba at Calgary Surge at Winsport Event Center. 6 p.m. tonight. So if you were in Winnipeg or Calgary and you want to watch some professional basketball, Canadian Elite Basketball League is in action in your town. So get down there and support your teams. That's right. Let's go Winnipeg Sea Bears. That's right. All right, there's my check-in with the CBL today. Yeah, Scarborough lost at home for the first time. Yeah, it's crazy. I was wondering why they were so sold out. Like if there was a theme night and a big group of people come in there to go to the game. I think it might be just because they're so good. And also the capacity of the Pan Am Center for basketball is not very big. It's just shy of 3,000 people. So they can sell out those seats pretty quick, especially when a team's so good, they're winning and they're like 15-5. They're very good this year. Yeah. Very, very, very good. Jamie K saying RJ will surpass DeRozan. That would be interesting. I don't know if see the thing is people got to respect what DeRozan's done. DeRozan in some ways is like LeBron. He's had very, very healthy outcomes for a long, long time. So that he's been able to stack these kind of seasons together to get so high on the career all-time scoring list. RJ is leading his draft class, which is very impressive. He came in with Ja Morant. And well, Ja Morant's been a knucklehead, and he's not leading his draft class for total points scored since then. But RJ is. RJ has the most points out of anybody in his draft class at this point in his career. So I don't know. This is a nice idea. I don't know how likely it is. You really have to have a long career like DeMar, and you have to keep a certain standard of scoring for that whole entire career to get to this kind of stratosphere. I mean, he's passed Larry Bird. He's passed amazing names in the all-time scoring list already, and he has amazing names he can still pass. Like he could go past Shaquille O'Neal in the next 2 years if he really has the right runway and the right opportunities to score. That's what I'm saying, guys. In some ways, you want to see DeMar pass Shaquille O'Neal on the all-time NBA scoring list? Yeah, that's the kind of shit he can do right now. It's amazing. Liberal Manuel's back in here. Good morning, Liberal. Good to see you. He's laughing his ass off. Let's see. KT saying this. I'm just going to be watching the tempo game to see if there's a weird mustache, shades, hair combination. Sandy might be playing Where's Waldo. No, I'm sure she's going to be compliant to the WNBA regulations for a suspension. And, well, she's probably likely to be watching in the back like a suspended player would. And she's not allowed to publicly be out there. But that's funny. That's a funny idea. Should I give Kareem a dunk? Because this is kind of a classic Kareem dunk where he's saying she's going to be out there with a mustache and a trench coat. That's kind of funny. All right, KT, you'll get one here. You'll get one just for old time's sake. You haven't been coming in and getting your daily dunks like you were last year. 81 on the dunk charts. Yeah, you got a couple people ahead of you that are at the century mark, and Fiercey and Isaac. So you got to catch up, man. Isaac saying this. Scotty had 58 dunks in 2024, 2025, and 163 dunks last year. Will Scotty top 200 dunks in a regular season now? Part of this is him pivoting to being more active going to the basket. We saw it really in the Cavs series in the playoffs. He's a lot more fearless. In some ways, he's gotten over this whole thing where he knows the refs aren't necessarily going to call it for him. So what's the point of doing it? No, he's like, just do it anyway. And he's so strong right now and so powerful. Yeah, I could see this. I mean, this is a good prediction to make. Scotty Barnes has 200 dunks made this season coming up. I love it. I love the idea of that. I love picturing what the different dunks will be and who they will be on. I like this. Yeah, I'm all about it. KT saying, you said something about Kawhi being suspended for a year and the Raptors possibly getting DeRozan for a replacement. Not happening. If the suspension is that long, Kawhi won't be a Raptor. No, well, what I'm saying is, all right, we're talking about a couple different things here. Basically, all right, think about this. What if the Raptors trade for Kawhi and it's found out like after that he has they find out his suspension is for the year, but they still say they'll take him. But part of the rules are because he's suspended, his contract is voided, but we have the rights to him. Like we have the bird rights to Kawhi because we actually traded to get him. And he's still technically on our team, but he can't play because the year's contract voided and he's suspended for the whole year. In some ways, they would have to make a way to fill that contract, that part of the cap. And so we'd have a huge amount of money all of a sudden that we could spend on somebody like DeMar and actually pay him correctly, and maybe even get another player. Honestly. That may be part of the whole strategy of Bobby is like, depending on what they figure out with the punishment for aspiration, if it's something as extreme as voiding Kawhi's contract and suspending him for the whole year, that money then becomes liquid and allowed for the Raptors to use to make a replacement for that year while he's out. And then getting DeRozan in that spot may make sense. And maybe even getting a good backup center somehow that way with the chunk of money. Because I don't think DeRozan's making as much as Kawhi. So that's the scenario I could see it working that way. But once again, what are the percentages of which scenario is going to happen? That's probably a very small percentage that outcome works out that way, is what I would say. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Smooth saying LeBron didn't even mention the Raptors as an Eastern Conference contender when he was interviewed at FanFest in New York City. Disrespectful, man. Well, in some ways I take that as a compliment because he doesn't want to acknowledge us. He's scared of us in some ways. I don't know. In some ways, I don't care. He's just playing the whole USA and NBA lines of like, ignore the Raptors. It's everywhere you see. Colin Murray-Boyles is not included in their list of sophomores to watch this year. They didn't even list Allen Graves and rookies from Summer League that they ranked. It's just par for the course. And we guys have to get used to it. We have been used to it. It's just going to be that way. And in some ways, it doesn't reflect reality and outcomes and success for the team. So that's what matters. They can disregard us, ignore us. They can not bring us up. That's fine. That's not what matters. What matters in between the lines and the 48 minutes and who wins the games and the outcomes. And 2019 happened. So, I don't care at this point. And we could take every single little slight like this. And in some ways, I would say this, it's LeBron. And in some ways, that's fun because in some ways, maybe he's trying to oversight us. Maybe he's, no, I don't want to believe Kawhi coming to the Raptors is going to make them something. Maybe he's also thinking about it as it is present right now. The trade hasn't gone through. So he's not really kind of like adding us up with Kawhi yet in his head because it's not technically happened yet. There could be a lot of different reasons here. You can call it disrespectful. If you want to feel like disrespected for that, I don't care. LeBron's LeBron. I hope he comes back to Cleveland so we can kick their ass and we can retire his ass and get a little payback for LeBronto, Jamie K saying, honestly, I hope we can sign Jamarian Sharp. Yeah, me too. To a two-way contract to help cut out down the front court. There is a scenario where we take the two-way away from Jaden Bradley and we give two ways to Biddle and Sharp. And then the other two-way is Chucky Hepburn. And the way that this would work is that Jaden Bradley would still be on the team because he's a second-round pick, but we pay him on the scale of the second-round pick. And Grange has said this would be a money-saving move where we could actually eke out just a little bit more cap room in other ways. So it's kind of like in some ways Bradley's getting a demotion, but he's getting a full contract, but it's at scale for a second-round pick at that point. He's actually better off with the two-way. But they could do this to him, and it wouldn't change his year or anything. He'd still be able to play at 905 and with the Raptors, and it would allow us expansion to get somebody like Jamarian Sharp in the fold. So I do like this idea. I'm totally with you on this, Jamie K. I'm totally with you on this. Yeah, Isaac saying DeMar has more points than Steph Curry. They're close. They're very, very close. You got to remember both of them came in together, right? That's part of DeMar and Steph have a bond because they came into the league together in the same year. But yeah, they're very close. I think that they're right next to each other. Another person that's really close to DeMar is Russell. Russell's still active, and he is around in the charts with him on there. Russell Westbrook. That may be part of the reason why Russell's trying to check in with DeMar and see what he's doing is because he's kind of trying to figure out where he's going to be on the career all-time scoring list next to him. You hope LeBron doesn't go to Philly. That's interesting, James. Have you hearing that LeBron might go to Philly and play with Nick Nurse and Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid and Jaylen Brown? Whatever happens with LeBron, I'm going to say this again. This next year coming up is going to be a circus with him. He's going to be more of a distraction. In fact, I would argue that whatever team LeBron goes to will lessen their championship contender status. Seriously, everybody say, no, it's LeBron. He's the greatest. Bullshit. In this situation, he's a distraction. In the last couple of years, he's been a distraction to the Lakers in a lot of ways on the down low. Well, think about this. If it's announced that this is the last year of LeBron James and it's going to be his farewell tour, Is that team going to be all about trying to get a championship or going around and doing a farewell tour for LeBron? And how much of a distraction of off of the mission for the year it will be? That's what I'll say right here. Go ahead, get LeBron. Feel like that's going to be an easy, cheap way to make your team really well. First of all, he's somewhat washed compared to what he used to be, and he'll be a huge distraction. And I would even make an argument that he makes a team less likely to win a championship when he goes to it because of the circus around him. Does that make sense? KT saying LeBron just ruined his legacy at this point. I don't know if that's true either. I mean, his legacy is always going to be his legacy. I don't know how he's ruining his legacy. I mean, he's got to leave the Lakers. They've broken the bond, and he's obviously leaving for sure. Now, what does he do at this point? Well, he could try and join up with Steph and Draymond and Golden State. And in some ways, I think that may be the most likely thing he does, guys. The Cleveland idea is big too, obviously, because of his home ties. And that kind of makes things sense. The idea of him joining Giannis and them down in Miami is kind of crazy. But Pat Riley would try and make it happen. Obviously, he made the Heatles happen the first time. He would love to try that again, Let's see. Kaloy saying, morning, everyone. Listening while cooking breakfast for Santino. Good morning, Santino. I hope you're having a fantastic Sunday and you listen to your father and what he tells you to do. That's what I would say right there. Isaac saying Kawhi over LeBron, DeMar over Drake, and Scotty with a baby on his back, Scotty without a baby over Scotty without a baby's on his back. That's an old reference to Scotty on Twitch playing 2K and yelling about babies, getting that baby off my back as he posts them up and backs them down and makes a shot. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, Scotty has a picture on Instagram this weekend of him at a lake in Ontario on a dock with his child, holding hands with his child. It's a really beautiful picture. Yeah. Scott's living a life, man. He's got such a good life. And man, keep going, Scott. And I love what your statement was in the open gym episode, saying that like health is so important. Staying healthy and taking care of yourself is so important. Man, I love that. That's the right attitude, especially because this year's going to be a weird year because we're losing Garrett Temple. Garrett Temple has gone to Dallas to be assistant coach for the Mavericks. And that locker room presence is already kind of gone. They're showing an open gym, the Raptors players together and palling around behind the scenes, and they're all still young, but they don't have like the unk of GT around, G Temp. So in some ways, the leadership void of Garrett Temple not running around with the team is going to be different. And I hope that they keep the standards that they held while he was around, of professionalism and being mature and running things with that. In some ways, Scotty is going to have to be more like Garrett Temple all of a sudden. If you really think about it, Kawhi's not going to do it. Kawhi may be the oldest player on the Raptors when we make the trade go through, but he's not going to be that vocal leader. He's not going to be that person. So Scotty's solely going to be this dude. He's the longest standing Raptor. He's the guy who's been on the team the longest, and he's also the real leader. He's the vocal leader. He's the leader on the court in all kinds of ways. RJ will have a piece of this. Emmanuel will have a piece of this. To a degree, even Jakob will be a leader on this team and speaking up and talking to people. But that Garrett Temple void is going to be felt. And I'm very curious to see how it'll be filled. And you can watch the open gym episode yesterday from Summer League, and you can see the energy around the team is a little bit different without Temple involved and being around in the middle of it, right? So it'll be interesting. Infamous is here. Good morning, Infamous. Salute, freaks. Did Jordan ruin his legacy going to the Wizards? Laugh out loud. His legacy has already been cemented. Yeah, I don't think at that time people were saying that, though. They were saying that because this is not the Jordan of the Bulls. He's a shell of himself. He can't do some of the things. In some ways, some of the stuff with the Wizards when Jordan was there was it was very high level and amazing for his age, but also at the same time, it was kind of sad and pathetic at times too. And people were kind of like, why did you do this? We want to remember you for your perfectness with the Bulls, and coming to see you here with the Wizards and at the end looking a little more human. It took some of the shine off his airness then, but that was temporary. And I think that this is the message that Infamous is trying to say here is that the stuff that people will remember are the Bulls championships, the 2 3-peats, and all the excellence in the competitor and the NBA on NBC and stuff like that. The stuff with the Wizards is a footnote, and it's kind of been brushed aside and not remembered as much. So I think this is true. I think that this will be true for James too. Is even if he goes to a team and it's a whole disaster this year, and his last year in the league is kind of just like a farewell tour, but on a bad team, and he doesn't do anything in the playoffs, that doesn't matter. In some ways, the stuff that's been happening with the Lakers has already been kind of a shame and a failure. Other than a Mickey Mouse championship in 2020, it was absolutely set up for them. But yeah, I mean, you could already be saying this from what he's been doing with the Lakers for the last 5 years. You could already say this, right? You already say this. Isaac's saying, I think it's time for LeBron to join a single A baseball team. Yeah, Birmingham Barons, where are you? And get them on the horn. They say, do you guys want LeBron? I don't know if LeBron ever played baseball. We did find out a lot of our Raptors played football, though, yesterday in the open gym. That was fun. Elijah Martin kind of bragging about his football skills and what he did before he fully committed to basketball. You know, we know Shed and people like that played football, and Walter. We know Scotty was very much into football. And it was kind of interesting to see them at the practice facility for the Raiders, and kind of their knowledge of football was already kind of a little advanced because they were picking up on the things that they were saying as far as do this coverage or you do this route, you know, Scotty, or do this. And these guys are athletes and they have a background in playing football, a lot of them. So they knew what they were doing out there and what they were messing around. It's funny to see Jameson battle with the helmet on. And I think that Elijah was surprised that actually he thought he was the best football player out of all the Raptors. But then he saw a couple of his teammates doing some things out there and he's like, whoa, wait a second. Maybe I am not the best football player on the Raptors. Because look at what that guy just did over there. But that's a fun. I highly recommend an open gym as usual. So definitely check out the open gym episode that dropped yesterday. Very, very cool. Fiercely saying, who will do the conga line? Interesting question. Yeah, I wonder if that tradition will continue and how will that change? This is going to be true. Yeah, who will do the conga line if we're going to do that now? Yeah, if they're going to do that now. Let's see. Smooth saying this. There will be a resolution by August 1st regarding the trade, the Kawhi trade, in your opinion. All right, what is it? It's July the 19th. I mean, I say anything before September, we're good. Anything before September, we're good. In some ways, the only thing that's annoying me about the delay isn't the delay. It's all the speculation and all the content and all the people over talking about it. That's what's annoying me. In some ways, I'm fine with putting it on the shelf and forgetting about it until the outcome comes, but nobody else is. Everybody wants to harp on it and think about it. We've been trained by CNN 24/7 News to think about news stories over and over again and over and over again and obsess about them. And I feel like this is partly what's happening with the Kawhi aspiration trade to the Raptors and what's held up and all this bullshit. So that's why I keep saying, I don't care. If there's something in my life frustrating me that I can't get done because it's whatever reason, it's just not going smooth, I'll put it on the shelf and I'll forget about it and I'll come back to it. And usually I'll solve it better when I've taken time away from it. And this is where I want to handle this right now, because there really is, like, in these gaps, in these moments where there's a void of information and people are trying to make sense of things and want to know what's going on, they're going to seek out whatever. And there's going to be people jumping out with content and things and saying stuff that just really shouldn't be saying anything. They're going to mislead and they're going to say all kinds of crazy stuff. And the thing that's pissing me off is some of these content creators are taking this situation as an opportunity to be disrespectful to the Toronto Raptors. And that's the thing that pisses me off the most. That's right. That's right. Infamous saying that chip was for Kobe. Call it a Mickey Mouse chip. It's highly disrespectful. Every chip should be respected. No, I believe that season was really messed up. I can call it a Mickey Mouse chip. It was at Disney World. If I could say it just for that, right? It was at Disney World. So in some ways, that's the reference to that when I say it's a Mickey Mouse chip. It's a highly different chip than any other chip in the NBA's history. It was a championship that was won after a pandemic when there was a lockdown, and a lot of the athletes had different treatments. And one of the things that happened, once again, they set this up. They allowed the Lakers to practice and participate in working together during the lockdown when nobody else was allowed to. The Heat, the Clippers, and the Lakers all got special treatment in this area, and they continued to work out their teams during lockdowns and meeting together. So they had a leg up. They had an advantage, and that was built into the whole bubble playoffs and what happened there. Meanwhile, Siakam was not keeping up with his training, and he was not as good as he should have been. And yeah, I mean, it's all, it's disrespectful. Sure, it's disrespectful. People are disrespectful to us all the time. I'll be disrespectful to the Lakers and say they have a Mickey Mouse chip that should have an asterisk. And there's nothing wrong with me saying that. Nothing wrong with me saying that at all. It is disrespectful, highly disrespectful. I'm glad it is. How about that? I'm glad it is. I'm glad it's disrespectful. I want to be disrespectful. Kaloy saying this, as a certified LeBron hater, hopefully his last season becomes a shit show because of all this hoopla. Yeah, I'm okay with that too. I mean, he'll get his honors. He'll get his just ovations. He'll get his adulations. That's what it should be. That's what it should be. Like I said, he's going to distract from the mission for any team trying to win a championship. So in some ways, he's a bad decision for a team. Sure, you go ahead and think stacking a bunch of old aged superstars like Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and LeBron James is going to get you somewhere. Go talk to the Lakers with Steve Nash and Karl Malone and Gary Payton and them. Yeah, you can find out exactly what that kind of cheap ass shit gets you. That's right. Jamie K saying, I know the 2019 team was a classic, but damn, they had some interesting podcasters that year. For example, Danny Green and Serge. Yeah, Danny Green. Well, the great thing is because the Raptors attract really high caliber, high quality, intelligent individuals, we have so many people in media. I mean, Jeremy Lin just showed up this week, and he wants to do broadcasting on Summer League, calling our Summer League game the other day. Danny Green, Kyle Lowry, Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, Del Curry. These guys are all in broadcasting because we get really good, high quality, intelligent dudes that play for the Raptors and that know the game. And all these guys that are involved in broadcasting, a lot of them are former Raptors in a lot of different places. It's kind of crazy if you really think about how many Raptors, former Raptors, are in broadcasting right now. Kyle's going into it. So, it's very interesting. It's a symptom of like the kind of player we bring to our team. Let's see. Kaloy's saying they say that Anderson was brought in to fill the Temple void. This time we will have an on-court vet. Yeah, I don't see that. Kyle Anderson is not going to be Garrett Temple. You can't replace Garrett Temple and what he did, man. You seriously got to understand who Garrett Temple is and how he was. Kyle Anderson is not going to do that. Kyle Anderson may be vocal and he may be a resource as a vet, but he's not going to be the same way Garrett was. Garrett's just different. It's about a quality of the character of him and the way he carries himself. It's the reasons why he wears those suits to every game and looks totally top professional all the time. That kind of influence around Jacoby Walter and Jamal Shed was so good. They'll always be their vet is Garrett Temple. They're always going to say that G Temp's my vet. He's my old head. He's the guy when I came in as a rookie that taught me how to be an NBA professional. They're always going to say that. And it could very well be that, Garrett's on his way to a new part of his career and he's done with playing and that's just how it is. But we were lucky to get him for 3 years of being this kind of role on our team because it really imprinted on people like Scotty and RJ and Jacoby and all them, that kind of leadership. And in his absence, we'll just have to see how it goes after that. I don't know if Kyle Anderson is going to come in and he's going to be like the locker room leader. That doesn't sound right to me. He's going to be a veteran presence and he's going to have veteran know-how to share with people. And he may be more vocal than Kawhi, but I don't see him being the leader. I don't see him coming in and saying, yeah, guys, listen, Garrett could do that even though he didn't play. But Scotty's going to be this guy this year. Scotty's going to be very much the captain overall in ways, and he probably will absorb some of the stuff that Garrett would have done last year. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't know. Kyle Anderson's kind of like that. I mean, he could be quality control and kind of yelling at guys and saying, this is not up to the standard that we should have, and we're going to try and win at the highest level, guys. He could maybe be a little bit like that because he showed that on Minnesota in years past. That was his whole disagreement with Rudy Gobert, right? I think that was, yeah. Infamous saying, if the Raptors won it, would you still call it a Mickey Mouse chip? I mean, I don't know why you're sensitive to this. You know that I've expressed this about this championship for years. This is not the first time I've said this. You know what? I think that everybody around the league would say that the championship that was won in the bubble is an asterisk bubble. Who matter won it. You know for sure if we had won that championship, everybody else would say the same thing. You know for sure. So once again, I don't know why you're coming down on me for being disrespectful to the Lakers when the whole entire league, the ESPN media, and so many other people are disrespectful to us. I'm allowed to be disrespectful to people. If people are allowed to be disrespectful to the Raptors and the tempo, we are damn for sure allowed to be disrespectful to them. There's no one-way rules here, infamous, is what I'm saying right here. So, yeah, I'll call it a Mickey Mouse chip. I don't respect that chip because, honestly, it was manufactured and the path was laid out for them. And as I was saying earlier, that Adam Silver writes storylines because Terrence Ross told us that very explicitly. That chip is very, very much an explicit storyline written by Adam Silver. And that you can't deny this. I'm sorry. They picked the easiest way to hand a chip to the Lakers that year. And it was in a very convoluted situation that was very controlled and very easy to figure out how to do. And, you didn't even have fans there. It was not the normal anything. That whole thing and them playing in the fall for the championship, that is weird as fuck. So come on, infamous. Don't get mad at me for calling it a Mickey Mouse chip or a chip that I don't respect, a chip that I don't really count, a chip that I think is kind of full of shit. Because honestly, the whole thing that bound like them playing the Heat and the Heat getting to that spot and everything about it was all fishy as fuck. I'm going to say that right now. The whole thing was fishy as fuck. And the two teams that got the finals were two teams that were allowed to work out during the lockdown. Two of the three teams that were allowed to do that out of all the teams in the league. And that's truth. This is all substantiated. So, yeah, people disrespect this all the time. So, fuck it. I'm disrespecting the Lakers. Whenever I'm allowed to. It's a right? I can do this. If we won that chip, I would say it was bona fide. Of course, I'm a Raptors fan. Come on now. Sure, maybe I'm not right for that. But you know what? Is it right that they disrespect our chip and the things they say about our chip? I think that you can disrespect the Lakers chip in more substantial, reasonable ways than the Raptors chip, is what I would say. Jamie K saying, I know we lost Temple as a guards leader, but we still have Jamal McGlure for our forwards. Jamal McGlure is not really involved in the team anymore. I'm going to say that right now. He's not on the coaching staff. He's a community ambassador. And he does events around the team in public just to show up and say, hey, I'm Jamal McGlure, all-star and former Raptor. But he's not a part of Darko's coaching staff. He is not a big man's coach. He is not around the team on the day-to-day basis. He's a community guy who lives in Toronto that still represents the Raptors at social functions. Like he may show up and hang out with Olivia Chow at a ribbon cutting as the Raptors representative. But he is not a coach. And he's not involved in teaching our big men. So this is not a thing. Mike Batiste was the guy who did this, but he's recently just taken a new job with an assistant coach for a Greek team, going back to where he played his professional career. The big man coach is Drew Jones. If you want to know who's coaching our bigs, it's Drew Jones III, the Raptors 905 coach from the last 2 years. He's going to be graduating back to being with the Raptors, and he's in charge of teaching the big men on the Raptors team. So that's the guy. That's the guy right there. Yeah, but yeah, Jamal is still around. He's still involved, but he's also more involved in the CBL. He's at a lot of the Scarborough Shooting Stars games, and he's a part of their front office in the Scarborough Shooting Stars. Yeah, let's see. Fiercely saying, imagine a slow-mo conga line. Yeah, I don't know if Kyle Anderson's inspiring this. I don't know if this tradition's going to continue, guys. A couple of the main people that were in the conga line are gone. Garrett, J-Mo, Grady Dick. Yeah, these were important conga people in the conga line. So I don't know if the conga line is going to survive for this year. Who knows? Maybe IQ will be this guy. I could see IQ maybe getting the vibes leadership this year. Maybe RJ. Maybe RJ's like, no, guys, we got to do this for Garrett, man. We're going to do this for Garrett. Yeah, just in his honor. We're going to keep doing this. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll see what happens this year. KT saying they say the Raptors won only because of injuries. That Lakers chip was Mickey Mouse chip. Yeah, yeah. I kind of want to see push-ups like the old days when the starting five gets announced. You mean like what Kyle used to do when he would get on the ground and get real low? I don't know. I don't remember anybody getting on the ground other than Kyle during like introductions. Let's see. Fiercely saying even Caruso slipped and said he was glad to win a real chip with OKC. I love that. I love that right there. Point for Caruso right there. Jamie K saying the NBA bubble was an inaugural part of the NBA story. Laugh out loud. TJ Warren, Rachel Nichols, coffee, and the chip counts. Ha ha ha. It kept us going in a dark place. No, it was nice. I mean, it was weird because I actually got to watch NBA basketball around my birthday. My birthday's in August, which is crazy because they had restarted up. And it was a very interesting, weird time. I mean, at that point of the year, I was in a really bad place in Kensington, in the place I was living. And there was a lot of bad stuff going on in my life at that time. But that basketball was a godsend, and it kept me going through some crazy stuff and kept me some entertainment when we were like, locked down and not out and about and doing a whole lot. So yeah, it was very welcome to have the bubble and the basketball that late in the year in that weird time. But also at the same time, it was not normal. It was not normal in the least. Nothing about it. Yeah. Yeah, nothing about it. Infamous saying, thank you for being honest that if the Raptors won, you would respect it. Well, of course, I'm a Raptors fan. I mean, Infamous, are you watching my channel for the first time? I mean, you call into my show all the time. Come on. What do you think this is? You know what I am? I'm a propaganda machine for the Toronto Raptors. And anything that's not for us, I'm against. And everything for us, I'm for. And I'm the antidote. I'm the antithesis of the ESPN way that they treat the Raptors. Everything they would do to us, I would do to them. So what is this? Why are you confused about this, Infamous? Do you think that I'm an unbiased channel that is absolutely equal and everything? Fuck no, I'm not. I'm 100% behind this team. And if this does not work for them, then I'm not with it. That's why I denounce any kind of slander and regular like trade talk or rumors that does not work in our favor. That's why I say, fuck that shit. I'm not listening to it. Because I don't believe half the talking heads, because half the talking heads are the opposite of me and they have a bias against us. So in some ways, yeah, maybe I'm like the dad of the little kid that's the Raptors. Yeah, my son's so great, and I'll talk him up and I'll overlook every single negative quality about him. I don't know why you don't get this. This has been the programming for 5 years, Infamous. Have you missed the point of why I'm doing this channel? This is the whole reason why I'm doing this. I'm like the Fox News for Toronto Raptors, and I'll even admit that. I'll be open about it. In fact, I actually tout that I'm a good example of how propaganda is used against us today in society and politics. That I'll openly show you the techniques of how propagandists use propaganda to get across things and try and change things. Because I'm doing it for the Raptors. And I'm doing it in a pure reason in my heart for something I feel like. But what am I doing? I'm doing the same tools that they would use on Fox, on other channels. And if you accept that and understand what my goals are and what I'm doing, then you might like my channel. But if you don't accept that and you think, oh, this guy's full of shit because he's just for the Raptors. Well, yeah, I am. Because that's why I made this channel. Because I saw a glaring hole in the middle of everything in the social media world and the media world that nobody's actually standing for the Raptors like I am, like I do on this channel. Not William Liu and hello and welcome. Not Mike Roach. Not Samson Folk and Raptors Republic. No, they try and have journalist integrity. I don't give a shit about journalistic integrity. I'm a fan. And my channel and what I talk about on this channel is coming first and foremost that I stand behind the Raptors. And I stand behind them blindly. I stand behind. If there's something bad coming to the Raptors, I will spin that shit in a positive way and try and protect them. That's what I'm doing here. I don't understand why everybody's just all of a sudden, oh, why would you be like dissing the championship? You should respect the Lakers. Fuck that. I don't have to do that. No, I don't. No, I don't. That's right. Yeah. Nins is here. Good to see our Discord administrator, our guy in Philly, the city of brotherly love, Mr. Nins. Lex, how are you, a big guy? I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. The sun is shining.
There's no rain today. There's no orange sky of hell from forest fires. Maybe if I go outside, it'll still smell chemically, but we'll see. I'll step out in a little bit and see what's going on after I do my show, check on all my gardens and see what's growing out there. I got a lot of cucumbers on the way right now. That's right, a lot of cucumbers. That's it. Kaloy's saying that chip was devoid of home court advantage, traveling, etc. A lot of things that make the NBA playoffs super difficult, aside from the actual game plus COVID situation. Exactly. These are extremely good points by Kaloy. It was a sterile environment of TV screens and just refs in there. And think about this, when they film wrestling in a closed studio, they can edit shit and they can change things around. Not that I'm saying that they did that during the games, but they can definitely hold the environments a certain way. And that was such a closed system and environment in there that they had easier time manipulating all the factors because there were less factors. There weren't fans. There wasn't home court advantages. There wasn't all this other stuff that's normal for an NBA playoff. So there's a lot of good evidence for why we can say it's a Mickey Mouse championship and why most NBA fans don't respect it. We'll say most. Most fans do not respect that championship. Not just me as a Raptors fan. You could go talk to Boston fan. You could go talk to Chicago Bulls fan. You could talk to Spurs fan. You could talk to any fan around the league that isn't a Lakers fan, and they probably tell you, yeah, I don't respect that championship. That was some bullshit. This is pretty common around the league for sure. For sure. Jamie K saying, honestly, the U.S. and ESPN disrespect us anytime we play. It's a U.S.-Canada thing. Yeah, they look at it as we have NBA Canada. We have the whole market of Canada. In some ways, they don't think that we watch American television. And it's funny because we see it because we're watching Summer League. We're watching the same broadcasters that are calling the game as the Americans down there. And we hear y'all disrespecting us. In some ways, y'all should be trying to fix things because of Trump. Trump is disrespecting us enough for y'all. If I was American broadcasters, I'd be like kissing the ass of Canada right now. Listen, we want you to come down and spend money here. We do like the Raptors. I would be doing this more fairly because in some ways there's a lot of damage going on with allies and commerce between the borders. A lot of people ain't going across the border no more to the United States for any kind of shit because of fucking Trump and his rhetoric. So I would think American broadcasters, maybe you could start helping things for your country economically by kissing our ass a little bit. Maybe you should start talking up the Raptors a little bit more. And Raptors fans will be like, you know what? They're awesome. No, we're more likely to think y'all are jackasses with your 51st state bullshit. Elbows up, motherfucker. And fuck y'all for even suggesting that we would even think about wanting to become part of the United States. Fuck that shit. Never, ever. True North, strong and free. Forever. That's right. It's in the lyrics. That's it right there. Yeah. I mean, it's and they know it. Like I've been in comment sections with people, and they may have been broadcasters even. It's like y'all are disrespecting us. Yeah, we know we're doing it on purpose. We're doing it on purpose. It's part of the propaganda, and I wouldn't put it past some shit like in Trump's cabinet and CIA and FBI that this is a mandate by them to say, listen, NBA people, you have to be really bad and disrespectful to Canadians because we're on the download trying to start some sort of conflict with them. Aren't you listening to us talk about the wildfires right now and all the crazy ass bullshit we're saying about Canadians and how awful they are for having natural occurring wildfires that are actually caused by our climate change because we're putting so many emissions into the world as the United States? We are number one in this because we love being number one. And we're definitely number one in emissions that cause climate change, which cause the forest fires that we're all complaining about and blaming on y'all. I mean, come on now. Let's talk about this in real ways right now. That's right. Let's talk about this in real ways. All right. Now, Fiercey's brought up something very interesting here. Nins, there's been a request to get a Sandy Brondello head in our Discord server. Maybe switch it up a little bit. Maybe we switch out Brandon or any of the people that have kind of moved on from our team, like Garrett Temple. And we put in new faces in our Discord. And on this chat here in this YouTube channel too for members, new little heads. And I would like maybe a couple of tempo faces, like a Marina and Sandy at least, maybe a Kiki. And, if you want to put Kawhi back in, that'd be great too. But maybe not until Kawhi's official is what I would say. Maybe you put Kawhi back in there somewhere too. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. Isaac saying the love how the Lakers got nothing in return for the best player of this generation, and then celebrated the divorce as a positive, priceless. I'm not even sure who you're talking about exactly right here. Let's see. You love how the Lakers got nothing in return for the best player of this generation, and then celebrated the divorce as a positive, priceless. Oh, you're talking about just because LeBron's leaving and they're not getting anything for him, he's just walking, and nobody's bringing a big deal about that in the ESPN press. If this was a team that they wanted to shade, they talk about how much of a failure they were for letting the greatest player ever in the history of the NBA walk away for nothing, and they didn't get anything in a trade for him. See, a lot of it's just spin. It's propaganda. It's the way you want to just word things. And if you want to point out the worst contracts in the league, you could talk about Emmanuel quickly and Jakob Poeltl if you want, if you really hate the Raptors. But you could go to each one of the 30 teams and figure out a bad contract on each one and overly harp on it in a way that puts it out there way more, and it makes perception. That's what I'm saying right now. That's what I'm saying right now. So beware of this, Raptors fans, when you ingest US media about our team, that they don't want good things for us. They will gaslight you, and they will feed you information that will make you hate yourself. So don't listen to them. That's what I'm saying. I'm the antidote. Come watch me, and I'll be very open and honest. Yes, I am biased. Yes, I am using propaganda, but I'll show you and I'll tell you how I'm doing it. I'll be very open and upfront about it. They won't tell you when they're doing it down there, but I'll show you the methods, and then we can understand how it works, and then we can be more critical thinking in our everyday lives, not just when it comes to the NBA and basketball, but also with politics and what they might be doing. What they might be doing to shape minds and thoughts on things. Ninja's saying Alan Graves emoji. Ooh, that sounds good. I like that. I like that. For sure. Just send me all the names you like on Discord. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. In some ways, I don't mind you doing what you feel like. You can be artistic with it. Just make it make sense. I would say a Marina Mabry one is very essential. We need a Marina head. I think we need a Marina head for sure. Kareem saying, Lex, who's your player comparison for Alan Graves other than CMB? Maybe a 90s player. Man, I hate doing this. I don't really know how to do this, man. I really don't. I don't want to do this, partly because I haven't seen enough of Alan Graves to get inspired for this. Now, my comparison for Colin is Charles Barkley. And I know a lot of people don't fucking like that comparison and they say you're crazy, but they said the same damn shit about me when I said Scotty was Kawhi and Magic Johnson and Tim Duncan all wrapped up to it. And people say, whoa, you say he's like Magic, Kawhi, and Tim Duncan? Yeah, Scotty's like all three of those. And I said that after his rookie year before he's gotten to this point 4 years ago. I don't know yet with Allen. I'll stand with Colin still, as I believe Colin Murray Barkley is the right name for him because he has explosive leaping ability. He has an uncanny strength, and he's an undersized forward that plays much bigger than he is. Now, he doesn't have the exact offensive bag that Charles has, but give him some time. He might actually get closer to Charles offensively over time. But the way he plays and this toughness and how strong he is very Barkley-esque. And the mainstream NBA people will not say that. They don't want to admit that. In fact, in some ways, Colin looks like Charles if you shave all of his hair off him. Yeah, if he's a bald-headed person out there running around, you'd probably say that looks like Charles Barkley if you were watching Colin Murray-Boyles. But nobody wants to pick up on that comparison, and nobody else has said it other than me. But I stand on it. And I believe more and more as time goes on, that comparison is going to look even better and better, just like the Scotty comparisons I made in 2021. So, yeah, I believe this is going to be like, you think we need a Dennis Robertson emoji? No, we don't. We don't need nothing Uncle Dennis up here at all. Nothing. In fact, can we stop him at Pearson? To stop him even coming in the country right now? Because we might need to do that. That's right. KT saying this. Can you imagine the Clippers having to fork up 5 upcoming draft picks in the middle of getting younger and rebuild? I'm all for it. Let's cut their arms off until 2030. Yeah, bad choice of words. Very bad. Yeah, very bad. Yeah, they need to be punished for this. They need to be kind of messed up and not able to compete at the highest level for a few years. Because that's the only way that you can get across a punishment that will stick and it will show other people in the league don't do what they did. Because this is so important. This may be the most important aspect of the whole aspiration thing is that they need to punish them correctly so that it really persuades the whole rest of the league to never, ever do this kind of shit. That is the most important thing with the aspiration scandal is punishing the Clippers. They have to be punished. Boris Diaw? No, man. He's way more quicker around the court than Boris, and Boris is a power forward center. Alan Graves is a true forward, and he's a split between 3 and 4. He can play the 4 to a degree, but I don't want him playing 4 initially. I think he should play the 3 because in some ways he's slight of build right now. He gets more muscle on him. He'll be able to play the 4 better in the years to come. But at first, I'd like to see him slotted at 3 and competing with Jamison Battle for that kind of spot on the rotation off the bench around there. Yeah. So yeah, Boris Diaw, nah, I can't do that. I don't know why it's so important that I make a comparison here. Can I have more? Can I tell y'all it's incomplete and that I need more information to make my determination? Because nothing's ringing or hitting with me yet. And there's going to be certain things he does out there that I'm like, okay, now I see it. Now I see who it is. In some ways, Alan Graves is a new age player that doesn't really play like anybody from the past. You know, to me, I would make a lofty assumption because of his IQ and his telegraphing that he's like a really high level. If you're really guys are really forcing me, who would it be? Because they got to be a two-way. They got to be able to play both ends. They can't be a super, super good offensive player. They got to have a three-point shot. I can't figure this out yet. I have to see him in the NBA first, I think. Summer League's different in some ways. All right, let's do the taste test, y'all. Straight goods on Canadian goods. Today, I'm going to be trying a new bag of chips. It's St. Louis mashup with Covered Bridge once again. But the flavor today is garlic dill sauce, which is very interesting. So real quick, what happens when you pair the famous flavors of St. Louis Bar and Grill with the delectable crunch of Covered Bridge potato chips? You get an iconic Canadian snack. So good, we've inclined to say sorry. We've combined legendary wing and sauce flavors with our homegrown russet potatoes to create a unique sensation that will blow your taste buds away. So I've got this new flavor that just came out, and it's St. Louis Bar and Grill garlic dill sauce potato chips. And I'm going to crack it open and try it for the first time. And I'll do, this is a taste testing thing. Just like on some of these YouTube channels, people like to try stuff and see how it is. All right, let's see the chip. You can see there's a little bit of the dill flavoring on top of the chip. This is a nice looking chip. You can see the Covered Bridge uses only the highest quality of russet potatoes. Oh, very dill. Yeah. And it's definitely got the garlic to it too. You know, I tried the hot and honey wings flavor of this the other day. I like that one better than this one. I'm not really a big dill potato chip guy. Like the dill chips up here in Canada, growing up in the States, you know, I had Hostess chips when I was a kid. When I come up here and go to cottage and we stop at the grocery store and we get some chips for snacks out at the cottage. And I would eat the old Hostess flavors like roasted turkey and all dressed and the flavors you don't get in the States. And I remember the dill chips when I was a kid, and I was never really a big fan of them. So in some ways, that's part of the reason why I don't like this, is because I'm not a big fan of dill chips. Yeah. I mean, if you like dill chips, you like this. And it's definitely got the garlic aftertaste with it. I'm going to have to, this reminds me, I need to grow dill next year. That's what it reminds me. All right, y'all. So yeah, check out Covered Bridge. They are my potato chip company for here up in Canada. They are fantastic. Stop buying American chips. Seriously. This is a Canadian company through and through. The more we buy Covered Bridge, the more they'll have to employ more people and have more facilities, and we increase the economy of Canada. This is a dumb thing we've done for decades and a long time. America was our allies, and we just blindly spent a lot of money on American products, and that money goes out of our economy down to them, enriches them. So this is so important right now to support Canadian companies. Don't go to McDonald's, go to Harvey's or A&W. Don't go to Starbucks, go to Second Cup. and stop drinking American products and buy Canadian products as much as possible. And Cover Bridge is my go-to for chips. This is fantastic. I know a lot of y'all have switched and tried Cover Bridge also, and you found exactly what I found: a great tasting chip that you can feel good about eating because you're supporting your own country and you're not sending money to Frito-Lay anymore. In fact, I'm gonna have another one. I can't stop. I gotta eat one more, even though I'm not a big fan of dill. That's actually getting better as I eat more of them. That's pretty good. Pretty good. All right, a little side. Straight goods on Canadian goods. Excuse me while I drink there real quick. Yeah. Let's see. Kareem saying, I would say an Andre Iguodala, only because his versatility in analytics. No, I don't see that. Iguodala was much like the other AI. He was very high volume sometimes and not very good quality. Like he'd take a lot of shots and they weren't the best shots. He was not, to me, I don't see Iguodala like that. I don't see him like that. No, this is something I got to think about. I'll come around on this. In some ways, what if I said that he looks like Dylan Brooks to me? What if I said that, Kareem? What if I said he's a bigger Dylan Brooks because he's hounding people just like Dylan Brooks does, and he can hit a three? I don't know. Dylan Brooks just popped in my mind. I will make a comparison to Alan Graves to Dylan Brooks. How about that? Jamie K saying, do you think the NBA is still trying to cover up the whole Kawhi thing still? Is Silver afraid of Steve Ballmer or like protecting him? There's all that. You're right on all of it. They are trying to not have to deal with it. That's part of the reason why they drag their ass on dealing with it. They have to. But yeah, Adam Silver is protecting the owners, and he is protecting Steve Ballmer to a degree. So he has to be really careful about this. He's asked this law firm to investigate, but also at the same time, he's winking at them like, investigate it, but don't do this and don't do that, and don't ruin the NBA as a business. So there's a lot of concerns that Adam Silver has in priority list, and you might be shocked what his priorities of concerns are as far as what is mattering to him the most. And well, Steve Ballmer is an owner, and that's who he works for, is the owners. That's right. KT saying, I'm growing basil. Next year, I'm going to build a small growing bed on my deck. Yeah, I like that. I love that. I love the video you shared on Discord in the last day or so of what you've done out there, because I've seen your journey with your little patch of land back there and what you did with the trees. I remember they weren't doing so well, and you got in trouble with the wife. And you had to replace them. But it looks like a very nice little setting out there for just a nice little chill evening with a drink, a nice drink, ice drink, and some snacks, and just kind of hanging out and getting the atmosphere of the summer out there, as long as it doesn't smell like smoke and all that kind of stuff. But man, yeah, it looks pretty good back there. But I would say, Kareem, with your setup out there, you could make it a little more wild, a little bit more diversified, because it's very particular. And maybe it's the style of what your wife wants and stuff. I get that. But to me, it's always the best thing to do is biodiversity and having different kind of stuff all mixed in together. And it may look chaotic, but sometimes the natural pattern of nature will come around and it'll make it look beautiful at some point. So yeah, I'm all for this. You want an herb garden? Start it. Yeah, maybe a little flower garden in this side. Maybe you start growing a couple of vegetables and fruit a little bit too. You like the Dylan comparison? I think the Dylan comparison is really about how he bugs people on defense. Is really like, Alan Graves is picking people up full court and bugging the hell out of them as they come down the court, and that's Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks is all up on people and breathing down their neck. You know what I'm saying? So it's very similar in that way. All right, let me do my check-in with HD real quick. Human design is something that I've been studying recently, and we just switched to a new gate, guys. We're going into the gate of stimulation. It's gate 56, and it's kind of up here in our throat, like right around here. It's right around here is where this gate is in our bodies biologically. And it's connecting our throat to our jaw. And in some ways, the gate of stimulation is stirring up through sun's magnificence. We can expect to have an entertaining time. This is the gate of the storyteller. the one who wanders through life, picking up stimulating ideas and weaving them together in tales to move us both emotionally and intellectually. So we may well be moved to hope or despair in the things we hear over this transit of the next 6 days. We may find ourselves being more amusing and prone to drawing upon more antidotes than usual in an attempt to enjoy ourselves and delight others. A rich time also for us to hear some tales that really make us think about our own lives and how we may live in a more enjoyable or wiser way. Yeah. So this is interesting. So today's word is quality. The word of the day is quality. That is gate 56, line 1. And detriment is the ego drive to make an impression that will misuse energy in trivial pursuits, the drive to stimulate that will express any idea, no matter how trivial. Yeah, it sounds like my channel in some ways. Also, the exhalation is the practical sense that even short term activities should be of value, expression of practical ideas that have value. So, the word of the day, like Pee Wee Herman's show, Don't Scream, is quality. So, think about quality in your life, quality of storytelling, quality of hearing stories from people and learning from them. And that's the whole kind of theme of the energy in the world today, right now. There's your little check in with the HD right there. That's it. Yeah. Kareem saying, wife won't allow me. Herb garden will work, but in separate bed. Yeah. So you really have the standard like rules of a yard and keeping it a certain way. Also, there may be homeowners association kind of things you guys got to worry about, I'm sure. Yeah. Especially in a unit like or having a lot of neighbors and people have to kind of keep things kind of the same, right? So I get that. And an herb garden's very harmless and isn't going to be a big shit disturber. That's for sure. That's for sure. All right, let me check in on. I got my Raptors Redditor of the day is Axe Caliber, and they have posted a video of 7'6" Canadian Jeremy Gohire, who's in the under 15. He's going to Wemby's old team in France. This is somebody that is a prospect in the Canadian program for a center, and he is 7'6". He is huge. The kid from Quebec, Jeremy, and well, apparently he's going the route of Wemby, and he's going to go and train in France with the big man that camp that he trained with there. So I don't know. I want to keep an eye on Go Higher. You know, we looked at Oliver Ryu. Oliver Ryu went to Florida, played for the Gators, and didn't get much playing time in the SEC playing for them in college. So in some ways, Oliver Ryu's kind of busted out already. You know, he's a super tall guy like Jamarian Sharp and Victor Wembanyama. But the problem is that Oliver Ryu does not have enough redeeming qualities or skill to actually play. Height cannot be taught, but you know what? There's a lot of other things that got to be taught besides the height. And well, in some ways, I would say that Jay Gohire may actually be the better prospect between Ryu and him. So we got to keep an eye on him. And the fact that he's going to train with the people that trained Victor, this is a good idea. This is a good idea. So thank you to Axe Caliber. You are Raptors Redditor of the day for bringing us the footage of 7'6" Canadian Jay Gohire, who's going to France to train there. Very, very interesting stuff right there. Yeah. Isaac's saying he's growing an army of milkweed in his front yard. Man, I have a crazy pollinator strip that is right not far from my raised beds. And I really do want to encourage the bees because there are declines in pollinators around the world right now because of pesticide use and other things that are declining their numbers. And this is scary because you need the bees to come and pollinate the food so that it will grow so we have food to eat. Like bees are so important. So on my cucumber plants, there's a ton of blossoms which foretell fruit, but I was really worried that there weren't going to be any bees around to pollinate them. But I have my track of wildflowers, so they are coming in. And I did see them the other day. But before I saw them, I was learning how to self-pollinate cucumbers because the cucumber plant has male and female flowers. And you basically take the male flower, take the petals off, and you take all the pollen with a Q-tip from the middle and you get it all over the Q-tip. And then you go and put it into the female flowers. And that's how you pollinate it like a bee would have done it. It comes to each flower and they pick up the pollen from the male flowers and they transfer it to the female flowers. And that's the part of the transaction that has to happen. Some people's cucumbers will not grow because the bees are not there to transfer it from the male to the female flower. So you can do it yourself. You can learn how to self pollinate it. But I was happy to see that I had a variety of different type of bees out there in the last couple of days doing the job for me. And now the fruits are starting to show, and they're starting to grow cucumbers. But yeah, this is a really important thing. And having milkweed in your yard is great for monarchs. The monarch butterflies love the milkweed, and the monarchs do need this in their place. But you should plant all kinds of stuff. Another great plant is goldenrod. Goldenrod is considered a weed in a lot of places, but it is absolutely a fantastic pollinator plant. And it's one that is very hardy and will pop up and show its. And plus, it's a beautiful flower. The yellow of it is really nice when it's in bloom. So there's a lot to it here. KT saying my family is going to hate watch the World Cup today. They're going for Spain because they don't like Messi and think Ronaldo is king. I'll be at the back going for Argentina. Yeah, I'm rooting for Spain myself too. I think part of it is the mess with things that have happened recently. And, a lot of people were saying a lot of ugly things about Argentina's history with Nazis and stuff like that recently too, right? So it's like, yeah, I'll be with Conde. I'm with Maria. I'm going to root for Spain and Marc Gasol and Jose Calderon and Jorge Gaboza. Yeah, I'll be with Spain and the Spanish players that have played for the Raptors and the Tempo. That's who I'm with this week. Today, I guess. Today's the game. All right, let me check on more of my tabs. There's a news article out right now on ESPN that Congress is really overstepping in certain ways. They want to investigate the WNBA for Caitlin Clark stuff, which is crazy. First of all, if they want to investigate the WNBA and the problems there, they got to investigate the fans for being racist and attacking the players in social media, not just specifically harm towards Caitlin Clark on the court by players. That's ridiculous. There's a bigger problem somewhere else. Well, apparently the Congress is now mad at the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, guys. Joe Tsai is actually a Canadian guy, right? He's not American. And he is Chinese also. And he has a lot of ties to Chinese companies. And there are Congress people in the American government, they're saying they don't really like the owner of the Nets being involved in America and doing American things because they don't trust him. They think that he's a spy for the Chinese military and that he's doing things and making money on behalf of China and helping Chinese military, which is crazy because that's not what Joe Tsai's doing. So yeah, the Congress is looking into investigating him. In some ways, there's a weird movement in the United States right now for a neo-McCarthyism. And if you don't know about that chapter in the history of the United States, McCarthy was a guy who went on a hunt for communists in the American government. And he deemed people communists and he ruined people's lives. There were actors that got messed up with their careers in Hollywood because they were deemed a communist. And there's a new age era, a movement of some right-wing idiots that want to bring this Red Scare bullshit up again. And it could very well be the point of the spear of this kind of shit is coming at Joe Tsai, the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, which is crazy. It's so crazy. The U.S. is really regressing right now. Their leadership is pulling them back into eras that were ugly and dark and wrong, and not learning from the wrongs to make it right going forward. They want to go back and make the wrongs again. So don't fall for this shit. Once again, propaganda is something I'm talking about on the show, whether it's my propaganda for the Raptors or the right-wing American politicians with their propaganda against communists taking over the United States or bullshit like that. Don't fall for this shit like idiots did in the 40s and 50s. And causing problems for people's lives. That was a whole horrible, dark chapter in American politics, McCarthyism. And they're trying to revive it in a new flavor right at this point. So, yeah, I think this is partly what this is they're trying to make a Red Scare and trying to make a big deal. And in some ways, this is not American. This is not freedom to go after somebody who's a self-made person who's trying to do what they're trying to do. In fact, it's kind of ironic because Joe Tsai is not actually Chinese. He's from Taiwan, and he very much stands for that separate country and what it's trying to do and its problems with China. in different ways too. So this is a crazy story, but I did want to touch on it. And just to let y'all know, there are other scandals around going on right now, other than a Sandy Brondello one, a Kawhi Leonard one, or a Caitlin Clark one. There is a scandal with the Brooklyn Nets owner, apparently. And Congress wanted to target him all of a sudden, which is kind of goofy in a lot of different ways. Very, very goofy. And probably another, another distraction from Epstein is basically what this is, probably is what's going on here. All right, let's keep going with the tabs. We're going to say a happy birthday to somebody who's involved with the Raptors that is important, but in some ways I don't totally want to honor. It's Alan Slate's birthday. Now, Alan Slate actually passed away a couple years ago. He died in 2021 at the age of 90. But Alan Slate was one of the owners of the Raptors in the beginning. And we know him as Shotgun Slate. And well, he was kind of involved in the early Raptors, and he was the one who kicked out John Batove and Isaiah Thomas. And he's kind of a jerk for it, honestly. In some ways, I don't really like him because of that, because that changed our team a lot. It really did. He was quoted as saying this. Let's see. They talk about how Slate and Batove had each held a 39.5 share of the team for the Raptors, and Isaiah owned 9% of the team. And then he put the shotgun clause in, and he forced them to say, "You got to pay me, buy me out, or I'll buy you out." And well, Batove couldn't do it. He couldn't get the funds, and he got bought out, and he was out. It's really messed up, man. So yeah, Alan Slate, when he gained control of the Raptors on November 15th, 1996, he was quoted as saying this: "It's exciting, nervous making, and at the same time, very proud. It's a big financial exposure. Anything of this magnitude would make any sane individual nervous, and I still have some sanity." See, this guy is the asshole who didn't even believe in the Raptors like John Batove and Isaiah Thomas did. We knew it was going to be a home run. It was going to be good, but there were a lot of people with money that were investing in the Raptors at first that thought it may be a failure and they're going to lose their money. And Alan Slate was that guy. And that's why he shouldn't have been the one who won the shotgun clause, because John Batove had the direct image of what the Raptors were. He's the one why we have the logo, the name, and the a lot of the really cool stuff about the team was John Batove's concept. And well, Alan Slate forced him out, and then he got into bed with the Leafs, and MLSC started. So yeah, it's a birthday. In some ways, it's an important birthday in the history of the Raptors, but in some ways, he's not somebody I totally celebrate. And he was dirty for what he did to John Batove Jr. I'll say that right now. So yeah, there's our birthday of the day. It's Alan Slate, but he passed away 5 years ago. But he would have been 95 today. He would have been 95 today. Yeah, let's see what else you guys are saying in the chat real quick. Isaac saying, I have planted a goldenrod asters too. Asters are fantastic. Yeah. Any kind of little, a lot of flowers, even the ones that are invasive, some of them are very good for pollinators. Like there's the creeping bell flower, the purple flower that comes up and it has the long string, and they're like they're beautiful. They're little purple bells. The bees love them, but they are very invasive and they're not native. And they really will spread around your yard quick. So you're supposed to pull them out, but I keep a patch of them and I keep them under control, and I just weed them around that area away from spreading more. But I like having the color, and I really do feel like the pollinators love them. They go crazy for that creeping bellflower or whatever it is called. Either way, I don't totally go by the rules of gardening, because I feel like there's a lot of bullshit that people are saying to try and stop you from making food for yourself. So I kind of experiment and do my own thing. And I also look at, like, when people say this is invasive or this is non-native, I'm like, who gives a fuck? The world's changing all the time, and new people move to new places and it changes. In some ways, this is kind of like a weird, like, anti don't let anything change kind of mentality. Listen, the world is evolving all the time. And sometimes maybe a plant species or animal species that comes into an area and then wrecks it and does all kinds of stuff, that's meant to be. Even if you think that, oh no, they're destroying this species or they're doing this. I get that. And this is a testy subject in gardening with plants. But for me, I'm kind of like, evolution of time changes things. And you know what? Something gets introduced and it just takes over. I mean, that is Darwin, survival of the fitness kind of stuff. So it's a tough thing right there. It's a tough thing right there. Fiercey, why are you kicking people out? History always repeats itself. Fiercey, did you hit the button by accident? Don't be doing that. Seriously. Don't be doing that. History always repeats itself. Yeah. But hopefully there's enough people that remember and we can get the pattern back in the right way. There is progress, even with regression here and there. I'm a big follower of Eckhart Tolle, and I listened to a seminar by him yesterday, and he was asked a question about how enlightenment and awakening is regressing right now, as some people are going very unconscious and very through hate and fear. And he said this is natural, that there's going to be periods of time where there's a regression, but the progress is still happening, and it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of stuff. So we should be cognizant of that. It may seem like we're going back, but there is actually, what happens is that regression and the little bit of going backwards is makes people pissed off and say, no, we've gone forward past this already. And the correction goes and pushes us even further in progress eventually. And that's kind of how it happens. Fiercely saying, oh, shoot, I'm holding my phone, but I didn't realize. Apologies. Yeah, that moderators, stop butt dialing shit. Seriously. Trevor has been erasing people's messages by accident. In some ways, that's part of the reason why maybe I should just have one moderator. And I got to take those powers away from people because this keeps happening where people keep erasing people's messages. They don't mean to. It's just a pocket dial. It's just a pocket dial. All right, let's do a wrap up. Wow, I'm almost at 3 hours. Time flies when you're having fun. I guess that's the word here. All right, we got to do the classic card, and then we'll do a final run through about the game today with the Nuggets. The Nuggets day. All right, here's the classic card. This is a fun one. Let's see how quick you guys get it. Full name answer, please, on the classic card. There's Gerald Wilkins, classic card many times the last few weeks. But who is this strong haircut guy here? What a strong haircut he's got there. Yeah, see who remembers this classic NBA player on this 1993 Fleer Ultra card. Yeah, who is that? Frank Brickowski. Yeah, your last name's a little weird, but yeah, it's pretty much right, Isaac. It's pretty much right. It's a brick. It's actually the word brick, Brickowski, not Burkowski. Frank Brickowski. Yeah, it's got it. He did shoot some bricks back then. It was an unfortunate basketball name. It is. It's just, let's be frank about this. It is an unfortunate basketball name. Brickowski. Isaac, even though you said Frank Burkowski, I'll still give it to you because you got it mostly right. All right. And he's about a 100-point card. He's not super easy, but he's also not just like, the easiest level. Let's see. Isaac Campbell. And I'll go ahead and give you 100. Like I said, 100 points to Isaac. All right. Getting some Raptor Freak trivia points for the classic card. Brickowski. Yeah. Yeah, his famous interaction with Dennis Rodman in the finals with the Bulls and the Sonics. That's probably where he's most famous for, is getting into it with Dennis Rodman and fighting for rebounds, and just that was a whole game in the game, was watching Rodman and Brickowski. It was fun. You had Peyton and Kemp versus against Pippen and Jordan, but then that Rodman Brickowski matchup. Whoa, look out. That was fun. That was fun. All right, wrapping it up. We're playing the Nuggets today. And basically, the players of note on the Nuggets Summer League team are former Raptor Jamias Ramsey, will be suiting up for the Nuggets, KJ Simpson, and TJ Bamba, and even their second-round pick, Trevon Brazil, is basically like the names that stand out to me. Most of the other guys are just no-name jabronis. So, yeah, so I'll be watching the Summer League game today. And then tomorrow we'll react to it, and we'll also do the preview for the Aces against the Tempo, the last game before the WNBA All-Star break for the Toronto Tempo. So, yeah, that's the scheduling note for the next show tomorrow. All right, thanks for watching me today. Thanks for hanging in there for Alexathon. As I said before, the views and opinions expressed on this channel are solely mine, And they're not views of the Toronto Raptors, the Toronto Tempo, Team Canada, and Rowan Barrett Sr. Anybody that I talk to, I'm not affiliated with any of them. In some ways, my views are not necessarily any of everybody else's on this channel. They're just solely mine. And I'll take responsibility for my own views. And as I said, I'm not trying to masquerade as a channel of journalistic integrity as far as I am a reporter with a press pass and I need to be unbiased and be very fair in covering things. No, I'm a homer. I'm a fan, first and foremost, a very diehard, passionate day one fan for the Toronto Raptors and the Toronto Tempo. And everything that I say in some ways should be heard through the lens that I'm standing for them. And I will be putting things in a positive way for them because I'm for healthy and good things happening to those teams. And meanwhile, the antithesis of me, maybe ESPN, maybe a lot of the US media, may even be some of the Canadian media and how they treat the Raptors. And that's the whole thing that people have to understand. But at least I'm upfront and honest about it. And other people won't tell you that, and they'll be shady about it. And in some ways, part of it is the education of showing how these things work so that people can be more critical thinking and understand how propaganda and spin can be utilized in today's society to shape minds and perspectives. This is a big part of what I'm doing right here. That's right. Sorry for Brickowskiing that spelling. You get a dunk for that. That's hilarious. You just Brickowski the last name. That is hilarious right there. That's good stuff right there. Isaac, you're at 109. 109. You're a hot 109.1 on the FM dial, playing all the beach summer hits that you want. That's right. I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa. All right, y'all. I feel bad for Sandy, but you know what? She came correct with her apology and her blind spot and what she did yesterday with the game the other night and everything. And I think it's all worked out, tied up in a little bow, and she'll get her punishment tomorrow and miss the game. All right, let's go Raptors. Let's finish Summer League on a high note. I'm excited to see who plays tonight and see a little bit more Raptors Summer League basketball before, training camp will be the next time we'll see them after that. So, yeah, we got to be ready there. Yeah, Sandy will be fine for sure. Jamie K, thank you for joining us today for the whole stream and participating in the chat. I appreciate y'all. All right, y'all, let's go Raptors and let's go Toronto Tempo. Let's go Team Canada. Let's go Canadian Elite Basketball League. Scarborough, you lost your first game at home last night. It's unfortunate, but it was probably eventually going to happen at some point. And good job, Ottawa Blackjacks. There you go, Isaac. I'm going to root for the Blackjacks real quick. Let's go Blackjacks. Let's go Blackjacks. Beating the Scarborough Shooting Stars. That's right. W for you guys. You get to rub it in, Isaac. You get to rub it in. Rub it in on me right now. That's right, Blackjacks fans. Take down this Scarborough Shooting Stars fan for the big win yesterday at Pan Am Center. All right, y'all. See y'all tomorrow. Let's go